You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We'll talk some baseball today. We'll talk some NFL football. We will talk some college football as well. We will hang out with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock. She is from the NFL Network, analytics expert Cynthia Freeland. We will talk some NFL football with her, get her thoughts on the Chiefs' 3-1 start, looking around the NFL at some other teams as well, and get into some analytics of penalties. Analytics of penalties, that'll be fun. Maybe we'll do that. I'm not sure. There's other NFL news that we definitely want to get to and talk about as well that's going on around the NFL with a couple of teams in the AFC West. But Cynthia Freeland at 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. Their press conference today around 11:45, 11:50 or so. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and we will see which players will be at the podium with those particular individuals. And then Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, will be hanging out with us in the 1 o'clock hour, and we will give the final tally of the Royals ZOUs. We will do that in the 1 o'clock hours, about 1:25 or so. See who won and see the food that Dylan gets to enjoy. See, Dylan, it's a great part about showing up midway through a season. You just get to enjoy. You don't have to pay for lunch for anybody, but you just get to eat it. Unless, of course, Beard's lost, then Dylan must take over that. Just like that job, you take over all debts and responsibilities, just like being passed down.
Yeah, I think you have to.
That is fair. I will say.
I think you step into that role and you inherit a lot of things. So you did inherit Beards' filthy backwards hat that you keep refusing to wear. I have it in the office if you want it.
Weird.
You inherited his beard.
Yeah, there's beard.
And thankfully that they got the order of operations right. Otherwise, you'd be inheriting his child. And that I'm thankful. I'm just glad that didn't go that way for both of your sakes. But you do inherit his debts, unfortunately.
I think it'll be fine. With both the child and the debts.
I trust Beards.
Those one leads to the other, by the way. One is a definite precursor to the other.
What do you trust Beards more with, though? Predicting baseball or being a father?
Door number 1, life of prosper. Door number 2, kids in debt. Man, I don't know what I want to do. Traveling the world, financial independence, freedom. Or a crapping, crying, eating, costing me money human. I don't know. It's so difficult.
I already have one of those things. I am one of those things.
Your wife is like, I've got one already.
I already have a crapping, crying infant that just eats everything all the time. Kids seem like a real headache, man.
They're the best. And they don't get you sick at all.
Oh, no. You got the sniffles?
Not at all. It never happens when the kids go back to school. They're never running around with the little snot-nosed kids, and your kid's never the one that starts it, though. There's always another kid in class that's to blame for the snot-nosed kids running around.
They take their little petri dish immune system to school. They come back.
Absurd.
You now an adult. You see, I imagine the same 8 people every day. We all have our regular schedules. These kids, man, if they come back with a new strain of some sort of virus, you can't be surprised. They're just surrounded by little gremlins all the time. It's horrible.
Don't know what it is in their DNA that every child just goes to like a public place and like, ooh, railing, let me lick it. Why? I was just curious of what this railing would taste like. Tastes like fingers. I didn't know.
If it makes you feel any better, I grew out of that in my 20s.
Was one of the questions we asked when we hired you. Last time you licked a rail. 5 years ago?
I haven't.
That's close.
Yeah,
I guess. Can we wait like 3 months to hire you though? Because it's right on the border.
I don't think I've licked any of the railings here. Several of the microphones just by accident. I mean, we talk into them all the time.
That's why we wear a little cap thingy.
You pop your plosives, and all of a sudden, you and Nate Bucati may have shared some spit. What?
Yeah. You guys are over there.
Just mark that for me,
Dylan.
Dylan.
Doing that with Sren and Steven. All right, 913-3810810 is the phone number for some reason. We'll give that out on Monday.
If you want to hop on early, 913-3810810. You know what? If you call in now and you wait on hold, you can be the first caller on the postgame show.
There you go.
I'll get you to Sunday night.
Right there. Just line number 8. Just sit there, hang out, and you'll be the first one. And you know what? Double dip. You'll even be the first one on Monday as well.
2 for 1 is fine. I'll leave you there. You got to stay out. Obviously, you can't hang up after the postgame show, but just stay there.
913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810. It's going to be one of those shows today.
I think it is.
So, cough medicine and microphones.
We got the door open. It feels, unless you have allergies, in which case we should shut the door.
This is not an allergy thing.
Fantastic. Doors are open, and we're having a nice time. Good luck with the day, Quill.
I'm allergic to germs, apparently. That's the allergy.
I'm allergic to kids.
You know what? Stay there. Stay as long as you can. So that's how the show lines up today. What do we start with, the NFL trades or what we heard from JJ yesterday? NFL trades and releasings, things like that, or JJ from yesterday. I mean,
Those are kind
We'll
of
get to
fun.
both of them.
The NFL trades are kind of fun, but they're not going to change anything for the next week or honestly maybe the rest of this season. They're kind of fun. But, even as baseball season is over for the Royals, good teams get to keep playing in October. I just learned that.
They were playing yesterday.
That's wild. No one on ESPN mentioned it all day. But I'm
a big Phillies fan.
I think the long future of the Royals here, I think it would be a reasonable thing to start with.
Yeah, I do too. I am a big Phillies fan, though. Thank you to them last night. And
is that a DraftKings rooting interest?
All of the individuals with single game parlays.
Fantastic.
Coming through last night and continuing my weekend. So it's going to come crashing down soon. It will come crashing down soon. Start to fade me really quickly.
You can afford to have a third kid now.
No, now we can afford half of our first. So that's exciting.
Now you can afford a vasectomy.
Now we can afford dinner for one of the childs. We'll figure out which one. After you fight to the death, one of yous is going to move with us. Who's it going to be?
Tryouts. Snap the pool cue over your knee. Chuck it.
Who's it going to be? Is it going to be you, Darwin?
Everett, you're several years older, but your sister's got that dog in her.
Honey, the irony of Darwin being the one that died. Well, we move on. So do the Royals.
Survival of the sneakiest.
Here is J.J. Piccolo yesterday. Let's start with the 2023 objectives. This was interesting to me because, he talks about what were the objectives this past year. We'll get into what he thinks about the expectations for next year, but what were the objectives for the 2023 season? And one thing sticks out here that is of interest and sort of gives you an idea of the way they view some players. But here's J.J. Piccolo on the objectives of this last season and whether or not they were accomplished.
Going into the year, we had 3 objectives, and I've repeated this over and over. We need to figure out what kind of shortstop Bobby's going to be. We're very, very pleased with Bobby Witt Jr. as our shortstop and expect him to play shortstop moving forward. Kyle Isbell, can he play center field? The answer is yes, he can play center field. Just thinking about past center fielders we had, he's a different body type, so that's where our question was. But Izzy played center field really well. Now, Izzy needs to become a more complete player. He knows that, we know that, and he's perfectly capable. But from a defensive standpoint, we're very happy with him in center. And then pitching, this is the one that I don't think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish from an evaluation standpoint, mainly because a handful of the guys we were referring to were injured. So we didn't get a chance to complete that evaluation. But what I will say is it's not going to stop us from building on what this team, what the 26-man roster needs to look like next year. We're going to push forward. We're not going to wait any longer. We've got to get better. We've got to get deeper with our starting pitching, better with our starting pitching. It's unfortunate that we had the injuries, but there will be healthy competition in that starting rotation, and there may be some other faces in the organization by that point in time.
So that was legitimately surprising to me to hear that. Like, legitimately surprising. One of the more surprising things I heard yesterday was that clip. People can talk about payroll and those things, which, we can hear some clips about that and what they think of next year, but those are sort of things that I thought were going to be dog bites man, in that, we'll see what the payroll is going to be. Yeah, it turns out it's going to be crap. Okay, that's what the payroll is going to be. It's going to be inferior to almost every other competing team that's out there. Almost. You can still compete with a low payroll. But the objectives were, we wanted to see that Bobby Witt could play shortstop, and we found that out. Number 2 was Kyle Isbell playing center field?
Okay, your reaction makes me feel better about my reaction.
Can MJ Melendez play outfield? Is he the catcher of the future? Can he catch a baseball that's thrown to his catcher's mitt? Is Vinny Pasquantino really a middle-of-the-order bat? Can Michael Massey carry over his gold glove in the minors to the big leagues? Where does Michael Garcia play? Can he play center field? What about third base? We just really want to see if Kyle Isbell can play center field. Cool, he can. Can he hit? No, but he can play center field, though. But does he get on base at least 300? No, he does not. Does he have kick-ass tattoos? Yes.
Hell yeah.
He plays center, has kick-ass tattoos. What more do you want, man?
Great baseball aesthetic. A true center fielder's aesthetic.
He looks like an amazing baseball player in a uniform.
He looks like an amazing baseball player on defense, in the field.
That's right. That is exactly right. What about at the plate? Well, we want to see if he can play center field defense. Yeah, but what about batting and playing like overall like a center fielder? Well, like I said, our objective was to see if he could play defense in center field. Turns out he can. He's built a little bit different than other center fielders we've had. He's stockier than, say, I don't know, Michael A. Taylor.
Yep.
Who's playing right now.
Yep.
Making a stupid catch yesterday. But that's besides the point.
That's the point.
Number two was...
Is his name Kyle Isbell? Because if not, I don't care.
Number two was... I was legitimately... the most, not like it was the most important thing to come out of yesterday. There's a lot of things again. It was the most shocking thing to come out of yesterday. The most surprising thing when I woke up yesterday and I thought, what am I going to hear from J.J. Piccolo when I listen to this whole press conference back? What's going to stand out the most? It's got to be something about Kyle Isbell. It's got to be something about him. And this is nothing against Kyle Isbell. He's a fine player. He's a good defensive center fielder. He's a good defensive replacement if you need it on a team that's going to be competing. But he ain't the number 2 objective on the season to see what the hell they had in a team. No mention of MJ Melendez? Yeah. Like, that's a pretty big one.
Pretty big.
Someone who led minor leagues in all of minor leagues in home runs and was a catcher and who had extreme trade value.
Yep.
That you said, no, he's going to be our catcher of the future. That halfway through his rookie year, it's like, well, maybe he's not. We're going to try him in outfield and do some other things. And then his second year, you completely take the catcher's mitt out of his bag. Like, you don't even get one anymore. You know what? You just gift that to somebody else. You're not going to use it. You don't need it anymore. Here's your outfielder's glove. That's all you get. But can you hit enough to play a corner outfield? I don't know. It didn't matter. We were worrying about did you learn anything from MJ Melendez? Don't know. Did he play? We were watching Isbell in center. Oh, we learned about MJ when he played next to Isbell. Is that what you were asking? When Isbell was in center field, we saw MJ doing some things too. Were we supposed to know about him this year too? Oh, well, you know what? You know what I think? I think he looks good in his uniform next to Isbell in center field. That's what I think. It's just an odd thing to go with number 2.
Your reaction genuinely makes me feel better about my reaction because my reaction was just, well, I guess I just really misjudged how much they cared about Kyle Isbell because
Did you misspeak, JJ?
Yeah, I
Isbell is he's the one that wears number 28, right? We're talking about the same guy. Isbell?
All right, so here's what we're really focusing on. We really need to get some answers on this. We have our generational talent who's going to be at the center of everything that we do. On or off the team for the next decade, he will, of course, determine, both if he's a Royal or if he's somewhere else, kind of what sets the rest of the future. The entire pitching staff we think is really important. And then the center fielder who played like 90 games and got on base at about a 280 clip. Also, like that's like number 2 or maybe 3. Maybe I could have listed him third. I just was genuinely also very surprised. I was like, okay, I just thought there were a lot more pressing questions that you'd want to answer to.
And the thing is, he plays a really good center field. He's really good defensive center fielder.
But we didn't learn that this year, right? Like that's the reputation. See, that's the back of the baseball card, though, right? It's like this dude's going to be fun in center.
See, and that's where I think 1 and 2 don't really add up to me.
Yeah.
Number 1 is, can Bobby Witt play shortstop?
Right.
Well, you needed to figure that out because you knew he could hit.
Right.
You knew Bobby Witt. Now, was he going to get on base at a great
You also knew
clip?
he was a starter. You knew he's either it was either he's going to start at third or start at shortstop.
Right. So we need to figure out what defensive position he's going to play because he's going to be on the team for the next 6 years.
Yes.
You knew Isbell could play center field defense. You've known that for a long time that he's a really good defensive center fielder. The question is, can he be a starting center fielder on a team that can win a division? Therefore, what does he do at the plate every day as a starting center fielder?
He's 26. He's 2 years older than Drew Waters.
Yeah. So this isn't to pick on Kyle Isbell. It's just
I like Kyle Isbell. I really do.
That he's got a 280 on base percentage. Like, it's not a 280 batting average. It's a 280 on base percentage. Batted 240 this year.
It's very weird.
So, yes, and they have to figure out the starting pitchers. That also
That's
is
number
something.
3.
That also is something they needed to figure out. Bobby Witt shortstop, Isbell in center, and then who's going to throw the damn ball? I'm not sure. You know what? We actually didn't need to figure out the starting pitchers this year because we needed people to put the ball in play very hard and very fast to see if Witt can play shortstop and Isbell can play center field. If we had a bunch of pitchers going out there and striking everybody out, that doesn't give us an idea of Witt at short and Isbell in center. We get nothing from our objective 1 and 2. So what if we went out and got, I don't know, Jordan Lyles and had him throw let's say 200 innings. Then we can get a really good idea of objective 1 and 2.
It'd be really, really helpful to get to clear that up a little bit.
Objective number 1 was figured out. Bobby Witt is your shortstop moving forward of the future. Hopefully it's a long future, and that could be determined by whether or not he signs a long-term contract, which is going to be a big question this offseason. Here's JJ weighing in on signing Bobby Witt long-term.
Well, it's clearly a goal of ours to sign Bobby long-term. I mean, he's an exciting player. He's one of the best young players in the game. We would be foolish to not try to sign him long-term. So we are working on that. I don't really want to comment on it more than that's a goal of ours. Would be exciting to do so. He's a special player, and we want to try to keep special players in our uniform.
Hope that's the case. I mean, you'll have him in uniform for the next 4 years. Then after that, we'll see. Hopefully they can figure something out because right now with the team that wins 56 games this year, and not knowing what next year is going to look like the year after that. I mean, if you're Bobby Witt and you've got money in the bank already, you're not starving. You got $7 million in a signing bonus. Are you going into this offseason and going, I have to sign long-term with this team. I need the money. And this is the team that I know I'm going to be with that's going to win a lot of games. That's not just going to be reliant upon me, that there will be a collective that's going to be really good in the clubhouse. I'm going to sign this offseason for 6 years to take 2 years of free agency away. Like, it doesn't make sense if you're Bobby Witt to sign this offseason unless you're completely blown away. And I don't think the Royals are going to completely blow away Bobby Witt in some sort of a contract offer. So my expectation is not that Bobby Witt gets done this offseason. My expectation is that, they will talk about it. They would like it to get done. J.J. Picollo will be interviewed about it, that it's something that they're looking to do. But if you're Bobby Witt, why would you do that? Why would you sign with this team maybe next offseason? If this team goes out and gets some players and acquires some players via trade and some things happen, and now all of a sudden you're like, a 78-win team, and you're like, man, you won 56 games, you won 78, and look at the guys you're around right now. You guys are growing together. Bobby, you got 3 years left here. Sign this 5-year deal, and for the next 5 years, you and the people around you right here are going to be the ones that win a division and go and win a World Series and hang another flag out there, hang another banner.
This won't really probably jive with when we hear JJ talk about expectations for 2024, but it's just as likely that next year they underachieve again. If this team wasn't really a 106 loss team, well, the next year might not really be a 100 loss team that might still lose 100 games. And if you lose 100 games, this is not me predicting this or soothsaying this or certainly not rooting for this, but if they lose 100 games next year, they lose 95 games next year, whatever, it might be pretty easy for John Sherman to say, hey, so we got to get this stadium thing, or we've got maybe some decisions by 2024 here. Maybe that'll be figured out a little bit. We need a hard reset, and we thought we were steering in the right direction, and it wasn't enough, so we're going to really reset things. At that point, if JJ's gone, if Quatrero's gone, if there are substantial changes there, Now Bobby Witt would be locked in for an extra couple of years in an organization that's not the one he signed with if he were to sign this year and see the team underachieve next year. Like, it's just not a bet that I would be excited to make if I was Bobby Witt. I think you're lay some groundwork this year. Get that relationship where it needs to be. Figure out exactly where Bobby Witt is thinking and looking long term, what the numbers are going to need to look like, what his vision for what he wants to be a part of is going to look like. But that has to be a partnership, especially in baseball where all that money is guaranteed. You need to make sure that you have more control. James Harden's not going to show up and force his way out quite as easily, but you need to make sure you're all on the same page. And if I'm Bobby Witt, I don't want to give the next 5-6 years of surefire prime to an organization that hasn't proven to me that it can win yet.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. There's plenty of more that we heard from JJ that we'll get into throughout the show. But we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Last offseason was the offseason of the Chiefs. In Kansas City, obviously, across the NFL, and especially the AFC, and more specifically the AFC West. And we are 15, 16, 17 months later, and we're seeing some of the results of the focus being about the Chiefs and not necessarily the focus being about an individual team and how they get better, trying to catch that team instead of trying to make yourself better. We'll explain coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We got up until 2 o'clock. So there's something going on with our cell phones today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this. This is just a warning to everybody out there.
Big emergency test.
Yeah, there's the national level of emergency alert test is going on today, maybe at like 120 or something.
Yep.
And this is going on across the country. And being October 4th, it's a big day because there are a number of people out there that think this is going to be a very dangerous day for those that have cell phones. There's been a couple of at least warnings that have been out there.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the vaccinations.
Sure.
So this will not affect Aaron Rodgers.
No, he's good.
He's perfectly
immunized
fine.
against this.
But Gina on Twitter, who's wearing a lab coat in her picture, so it
interesting.
must be true, says, and this tweet was sent from Earth. That's the location. It says from Earth.
You're right. That's what it says.
So turn off your cell phones on October 4th. The EBS is going to test the system using 5G. This will activate the Marburg virus in people who have been vaccinated. Sadly, some will turn into zombies. So,
I mean, that will be so sad.
I am going to turn off my phone because it's just going to be very annoying if I'm a zombie. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing the Chiefs and Vikings this weekend. Mizzou's playing LSU.
Yeah.
And just the fact that if I'm like a zombie or whatever, like, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to eat brains instead of like, oh, I want to eat some chicken wings or something.
That's
for the
exactly
game.
right.
So it would just be really annoying for the next couple of weeks or so to be a zombie.
You could probably do some like fried brain bites, put some buffalo sauce on those.
Brain
it might not be
bites.
terrible, You
Not
could,
terrible.
I don't know, some zombie nachos or something, just sort of some
Zombachos.
Some zombachos is pretty good.
Espinachos at Johnny's. Zombachos in your living room.
We were talking about how Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce was going to be like the couple's costume of Halloween. It might actually be zombie Travis Kelce and zombie Taylor Swift as the couple's costume of Halloween.
I mean, you know what? That actually might be the way to go.
That really
it's
might
a
be.
better spin on it, actually. So, yeah.
Our PSA also, again, is around 120 or so. The emergency alert systems on the station will also go wild.
Right, yeah.
So don't, not a War of the Worlds situation, unless the aliens decide to invade at 1:20 p.m. Central Time, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
But you will potentially hear loud, obnoxious noises at about 1:20, but that's just because Mick's going to be here.
So we are going to test the alertness of your emergency when Mick shows up.
That's exactly right. It is always an emergency situation when Mick Schaefer's in the building.
That's right. So the AFC West last year went out and made a lot of moves. And the AFC did last year offseason, a lot of moves. The Buffalo Bills signed Von Miller. The Denver Broncos traded for Russell Wilson. They signed Randy Gregory. The Raiders went and got Devontae Adams. They got Chandler Jones. The Chargers went and signed for $82 million J.C. Jackson as a free agent. A lot of these teams focusing on how do we catch the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs have now taken a step back. They have traded Tyreek Hill. And it's amazing being in the catbird seat because the other teams are trying to catch you. You're the rabbit. They are trying to catch you. And all the while, they're fighting with each other just to gain position, which may be very short-sighted in that I've got to catch this, I got to catch that rabbit, I got to catch the rabbit, got to catch that rabbit. But what's the best way to catch the rabbit? Well, it doesn't matter. What is in front of my face right now? Okay, this is a mushroom. It's going to make me bigger. I'm like Mario. Crap, it was a psychedelic mushroom. And now I'm all wobbly and everything.
And now I play for the Jets. What the bleep?
I don't know what's going on here. But I thought it was a Mario mushroom, and I thought it was a feather. I thought it was going to be like Mario and a raccoon. I thought it was some CBD. I didn't know what was going on. Turns out it was just a big blanket that now, and then it rained and now I'm slow. The Chiefs have been the rabbit for the last few years, and teams have been trying to catch them. And last offseason, to me, was such a line in the sand year and offseason for what teams will do. Von Miller got injured. That sucks last year for the Bills. That sucks. And he's returning. But the AFC West specifically, the moves that they made Every single team now in the AFC West, not named the Chiefs, has gotten rid of, cut, released, or traded one of their big free agent offseason signings last year.
That's a great point.
The Raiders let Chandler Jones go to deal with whatever he's got going on.
Yep, a lot going on there.
The Chargers this morning traded J.C. Jackson to the Patriots, who he came from.
The most likely unlikely trade in NFL history.
That's right.
A trade that didn't make sense and was always going to happen.
Christian Gonzalez goes down for the season
That
with the
also
Patriots
sucks.
over the weekend, and J.C. Jackson is a healthy scratch and doesn't like what's going on with Brandon Staley in the defense and how he's being used. He got his bag of 5 years, $82.5 million, and he is now going back to New England. Of course, there is an arrest warrant for him in Massachusetts. That shouldn't be an issue, though, because he's a Patriot, so he'll be fine. That's a speeding violation or something. You know, he didn't.
Is that real?
Yeah,
I thought you were leading up to a joke about them having robbed the Chargers.
No, not at all.
I had no idea that was all right.
No, he had like just a speeding violation in 2021, and he didn't show up to court, and his lawyer didn't show up because he didn't finish his classes and he didn't do the things that he was supposed to do. So there was an outright warrant issued for him like last week. And now he's heading back to Mass. Don't worry, we don't play there this year, JC. You know what, JC? I am so annoyed with you. We're actually going to send you back to Massachusetts where there's a warrant for your arrest, okay? You're going back there.
He's had more arrest warrants this year than interceptions.
He's got as many arrest warrants as trades. It's crazy.
He does. Wow.
It's going to be a fine.
That's crazy.
It's going to be fine for him. It's going to be a fine. It's a speeding violation. He didn't go to the classes. He didn't pay the fine or whatever. He didn't have his lawyer show up for him when there was a court date because he didn't pay all that stuff. And so there's an outright warrant issue. He might have already paid for it at this point. Who knows? I just thought that was a fun little sidebar.
It's a great sidebar.
Of you're heading back to Massachusetts now. But the Chargers needed guys to help them stop the pass. Brandon Staley's defense is about the passing game. You can run on them, but they are going to be so centric when it comes to eliminating the pass. And the Chiefs, it's what they do. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. We're going to add and bolster our team because this is the year we're going to catch them. They also brought in Khalil Mack. Mack has been awesome. He had 6 sacks over the weekend against the Raiders. Thankfully, he didn't have one more, but he had 6 sacks in that game alone. He's been awesome. But J.C. Jackson is gone, and the Chargers are paying almost the entire salary for J.C. Jackson this year. The Patriots are on the hook for $1.5 million of his salary this year. They swap a 6th and a 7th. So the Patriots send a 6th rounder, the Chargers send a 7th rounder, and almost all of the money for J.C. Jackson. And after this year, the Patriots can let him go and have no cap hit whatsoever. There's no dead cap hit next year because the Chargers are taking on that cost. So it would cost them 14 and change next year for J.C. Jackson if he becomes an awesome player, again, in Bill Belichick's system. It would cost him 14 in 2025 and 14 in 2026. So they could have a player this year for $1 million, 3 years after that for $14 million apiece. He's already 29 years old, so doubtful that's going to be the case. And one of the more volatile positions in sports is the cornerback position. But then today, we sit here to start to do the show, and news comes out of Denver that the Denver Broncos have just released Randy Gregory. A guy who they signed for, 5 years? And
5 years, $70 million on March 19th, 2022.
What did Chandler Jones sign for? I need to look that up now because
I'm not sure.
J.C. Jackson was 5 years, 82.5. And Randy Gregory was 5 years, $72 million.
3 for 51 for Chandler Jones.
3 for 51? Okay, for Chandler Jones.
Who's 33 right now. So
Yeah.
a shorter deal, but would have taken him to a similar point in his
Yes.
career as these others.
2 edge rushers and a cornerback that are now gone.
Yep.
By going through things in free agency. And it's not going to be a long, prosperous life if you're living in free agency.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen. And J.C. Jackson was somebody that was thought to be was connected to the Chiefs at least by some national people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it wasn't like Peter King, like there's interest from the Chiefs. And it wasn't anything like that to where there's a connection to the Chiefs specifically. But it was like J.C. Jackson's not going to be franchised. most likely destinations. There was a USA Today article that was number 1, the Chiefs. Charvarius Ward is gone. You know, it
was a positional need thing, not a report.
Yep,
but
and they hadn't traded. I don't think they had traded Tyreek Hill yet at that time. I'm not sure about the timing of it, but I just remember we talked about J.C. Jackson.
I don't think they would have traded him by the time that deal was done.
Yeah. So I know there was talk of J.C. Jackson. There was also talk about Randy Gregory. And talk about Chandler Jones.
Yep.
We talked about Chandler Jones on the show. You weren't on the show at that time yet, but we talked about Chandler Jones on the show. And just whether or not the Chiefs would be interested. And this is what Tyreek Hill helped afford the Chiefs. Because if you sign Tyreek Hill, then what are you doing in some other free agency? You probably don't have a lot of money, but what are you doing then in the draft and trying to figure out ways that you can be a more complete team? And by trading Tyreek Hill, they gave them the flexibility that, hey, there are defensive ends and there are cornerbacks that are going for a lot of money. And they went and traded up for a cornerback in Trent McDuffie and a defensive end in George Karlaftis. And those two guys are in year 2 of their what should be long, prosperous careers. Trent McDuffie is really freaking good. And George Karlaftis has been pretty damn good for, however many defensive ends were taken ahead of him, and is pressuring the quarterback and has a couple of sacks already. And the Chargers are trading a cornerback, and the Raiders and Broncos have both outright released edge rushers that they went out with their big moves last offseason. And the Chiefs are sitting there with Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. The goal was to catch the Chiefs, and they are now worse because of it, and the Chiefs are better because of it.
It really works perfectly with something we talked about some yesterday, both with the Bengals and with the Chiefs and Karlaftis. If the Bengals realize by the trade deadline that this year is not a contending year for them, if Joe Burrow's calf is still a problem and the offensive line still looks like a mess, I really do believe they need to start selling the pieces that they don't think they're going to be able to get extensions done with, which is T. Higgins and who else. But it starts with T. Higgins. There have been reports now last night also that the Panthers are looking for a number 1 receiver, that they might be calling about Jerry Jeudy, or should they call about T. Higgins and those types of things, which they should.
Which, by the way, the Panthers don't have a first or second round draft pick, so what number 1 receiver are they going to get without a first or second round pick?
A fabulous point. Fabulous point. They need somebody who's a little quicker than Adam Thielen right now at this point in his career.
They do.
But a great point is, what do you have left?
We'll give you something in 2026.
It'd be nice to have DJ Moore. He's not there anymore.
Gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
They need a number 1 receiver today. But it is so funny. Again, so in that side, it's, hey, the Bengals have to figure out a way to reload because, as you've laid out, if you are going to be depending on free agency, you can get good players in free agency. You can have sizable contracts that work out. Tyrann Mathieu was a great free agent signing. Mitchell Schwartz was a great free agent signing. Justin Reed was a great free agent signing. But none of those were complete bend over backwards contracts, for one thing, right? None of those were 5 years, $70 million. I can't remember where Schwartz's came in, but that was still at a time when we weren't talking about right tackles as being as important as left tackles, even though that conversation has mercifully evolved some. The reason that Karlaftis pick, and it worked out brilliantly for McDuffie as well, but the reason the Karlaftis pick especially was a good call at the time, and why positional value matters, and it's why the Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft pick was not good at the time, for even beyond him as a player. If you get just a good player, an above-average player on a rookie contract, the Broncos don't cut Randy Gregory in the second year of his rookie deal. That's not a move they make. This is super counting stats numbers. I have not watched a ton of Randy Gregory this year, to be totally fair. But he had 2 quarterback hits, a couple tackles for losses, and I think 1 sack and a bunch of tackles. It's over the course of these first 4 games this year. He's been playing. Maybe there's stuff in the locker room. Maybe it's a culture thing, whatever. We'll find out more as it goes. But you don't cut useful players at good values. You have to make moves like this when you're doing some real rip up the flooring kind of restructuring for your team. They create some cap space. They're going to have dead money for years to come. It's still a wild move. But all of these spots with Gregory and J.C. Jackson and Chandler Jones, those are high value positions that they sought out in the arms race. We got to either speed up Patrick Mahomes by rushing him or cover his weapons really successfully, so we'll get these defensive studs. If you get just an okay player late in the first round, that guy's still useful. If you get just an okay player or a disaster in free agency, you are paying a heavy, heavy price for years to come.
And I want to juxtapose that with the Ravens. People said the Ravens cannot trade the Chiefs Orlando Brown Jr. Because you can't make the Chiefs better. It's all about the Chiefs. And the Ravens went, we don't give a bleep. We're trying to make ourselves better.
Yep.
So they traded Orlando Brown because it made them better, and they got the Chiefs' first-round draft pick, and they took Odafe Owe from Penn State, who's missed the last 2 games with an ankle injury, but he was pretty good last year. Caused the fumble on Clyde Edwards-Helaire when the Chiefs played the Ravens 2 years ago.
I forgot about that.
As a rookie. And he was really good the first 2 weeks of the season before he hurt his ankle, and now he's been out, and now Clowney's been starting in his place for the Ravens. But it's a starting edge rusher that they got for Orlando Brown, essentially.
Yep.
Because they didn't care that they were sending Orlando Brown to Kansas City. They cared that they were making themselves better. And who knows? Maybe they win that division if Owe comes back. I liked Owe, but I wanted Orlando Brown as well. I liked that trade. But that's a team that focused on themselves of how do we get better. We can't catch that team until we get better. We're not worried about what they're doing because we've got to get better. But you're making them better. Yeah, but we're making us better. So it doesn't matter if we're making them better. We can't trade with them. That whole logic is dumb. And the Ravens didn't care about that logic.
Both teams are happy with that trade. And now the Chiefs are happy that they let Orlando Brown walk without getting anything else in return. The Bengals might be unhappy at the big contract they gave him.
Absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next. Well, the NFL season is going strong. DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers. right, we'll talk to Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock, NFL Network analytics expert. Then we will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll be Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes at the podium today, about 11:45 or so, 11:50, whenever they get there. And then whoever else is at the podium will let you know who they are. We'll react to what we hear from the Chiefs at the podium today. Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We will give a final count to the Royals ZOUs this year. Who won? Who lost? Who's paying for lunch? Who's just enjoying lunch regardless, other than Dylan? We'll find that out in the 1 o'clock hour. Mick Schaefer.
You may have to atone for the sins of the McFly, Dylan. I'm not ready to let you off the hook yet.
It's the pros and the cons.
Here's the thing. Beards is pretty negative when it comes to picking. I think you're fine, Dylan. I think being negative with the Royal ZOUs this year,
I trusted Beards.
smart strategy.
I measured the big boys' booties for like 2 years.
She's analyzed the data.
If you can keep that big booty down, like if you are a big boy, if you're very tall and you can keep your booty down low, then you are far more successful.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The back of booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce is done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up later on this hour. Right now, hearing it from Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert, joining us here in the zone. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Chiefs are sitting 3-1. The weather is cooling down a little bit, so that's always nice. Don't need 90 degrees in October. 70 degrees is fine. But so, yeah, feeling pretty good and thinking about this Chiefs-Vikings game coming up. And, Chiefs found a way to win in New York, even though it wasn't pretty. Sometimes the ugly wins have to happen, Cynthia.
I think that it's more a testament to the fact that, figuring out how to get over some adversity is never a bad thing, especially when the result is a win. So I'm not looking at that game and saying, oh, gosh, you snuck out of that one, right? It's more, this is interesting. When things go wrong, how can you right the ship? And that's very encouraging because this is a long season. As we know, it's very hard to win every game. Obviously, the first game wasn't a win anyways, but the reality is overcoming when turnovers happen is huge.
And it's, we talked so many times about the Vikings and last year what they were able to do in one-score games and then reverting to the mean, almost immediately this year that, the Chiefs have played 2 games that have been a one-score game and they're 1-1. That's kind of how the NFL goes. Don't be in one-score games more often than not and win by more. And, you don't go into those 50-50 games where a play here or there can result in you winning or losing.
Yeah, and, that one was it's interesting watching the Vikings because they're not as bad as their record would suggest. Just getting their first win last week against the Panthers, who obviously, and they're a rebuild mode. If you get a new quarterback, no matter what, you're still rebuilding for some things, and they're missing some pieces in their secondary and the defense as well. So, look, it's weird because when you watch, you're like, this defense is super targetable, and the numbers do bear that out. Like when they started off playing just a ton of zone, and they had almost a 70% completion percentage allowed, and then they switched up to man, and hey, it was about a 70% completion percentage allowed. So, they got to figure some things out on defense.
Yeah, then that's it's going to be interesting if the Chiefs should be able to figure some things out offensively against the Vikings, and it's one thing I want to get into with you here in just a little bit. But they knock off the Jets, and one of your thoughts there was sometimes overcoming adversity that happens, and it happens in a win. Anything of concern coming out of that game for you, or just there's 17 games in an NFL season, and even if a team like the Jets is a 10-point dog, that they got chances to win at home, and that is a team that beat Buffalo in week number 1. That they can cause some turnovers, and that defense is legit.
For sure. Yeah, the defense is super legit. Also, their offensive line looked significantly better in this game than they had in any game this season so far. I'm looking at Mekhi Becton switching over to the left tackle position, and they're actually getting just it sounds strange, but we talk about this all the time, even just a half a second more of a hold over, the holding up strong, not a holding penalty, but holding up strong at that point of attack is really, really important. And you saw Zach Wilson be able to make much better decisions than we had in other games. So it's just a tiny little difference that can make just a huge world of difference. So I think that's important. And also, you saw Breece Hall. I'm complimenting the Jets, basically saying the Jets. We thought, when you circled this game on your calendar ahead of the season, you're like, oh, that's going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be so crazy. But it's not to say that with a little bit of improvement, Zach Wilson isn't a serviceable quarterback. I'm not suggesting he's anywhere near Aaron's caliber of talent, but it's still an NFL team with an expertly coached defense and a lot of studs on that defense. So getting just a little bit of help on the O-line and giving the push from the running back, that makes a huge difference.
Sometimes it feels like when you do analysis of a team you cover every day and you talk about them a lot, like we do specifically with the Chiefs, and you come out of that game, and if the analysis is, well, you know what? I mean, Zach Wilson made some really good throws. When the weeks leading up to that analysis is that, well, Zach Wilson sucks, so they're going to bench him, and he's not any good. Joe Namath doesn't like him anymore. In fact, they don't even like the way he looks anymore. They want him to change to try to throw left-handed. Maybe do they just maybe Aaron Rodgers out there. Maybe if they do like a potato sack race where Aaron Rodgers like is tied to Zach Wilson and he throws the ball. Like all of these things about Zach, and then the game happens and the Chiefs barely win, and you go, yeah, but man, you got to credit Zach Wilson for making those throws. It can be viewed as, okay, you're a homer. So the Chiefs, there's nothing the Chiefs have done. The Chiefs can't do anything wrong. The Chiefs don't do anything bad. And that's sort of what I've been battling with this week. Not people, just myself, of like, okay, are there issues there with the Chiefs? Did we get too excited too quickly about how good the defense can be long term? Talking about, are they potentially top 5 this year? Are they securely a top 10 defense? Or is it as simple as, we talked with Adam Teicher, who's covered the Chiefs for, 30 years, and he said, look, on that drive that they scored the touchdown on after half, 75 yards, he goes, Zach Wilson made 3 really good throws that if Patrick Mahomes made those throws, nobody would bat an eye. Right. It isn't necessarily that, well, the defense let down. It's that he was the number 2 pick in the draft, and there are going to be some throws that he makes that you go, oh yeah, there's the talent. Okay, now I know.
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 things. One, Patrick said it himself. I'm not going to curse, but, Patrick said he played his tail off after the game. And Patrick was right. That was probably one of Zach Wilson's best games as a pro. You kind of get up for these big games, right? Like you get excited, and, Aaron Rodgers was there, and, there was a lot going on in that moment. So it was good to see that a guy who's a second-round pick, or a second overall pick, rather, can live up to that expectation. There's a reason. I mean, it's not like all these NFL evaluators are like, hey, he's garbage. Like, that's not true. Like, it's hard to become a professional. It's hard to become Patrick Mahomes. It's hard to become, the kind of guy who's like there's a reason that Patrick's probably going to be the best that we see in our lifetime. That it's kind of unfair to compare him to Patrick. But at the end of the day, he made some great throws, but also the defense hadn't really been tested. And you talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Kansas City defense under Steve Spagnuolo gets better with every single game. And historically, we don't even see who they are or what they're capable of doing until probably double-digit weeks, right? You don't even know what you're looking at. And they hadn't really been tested in such a significant way that would really dictate saying where are they going to end up being. And on some level, it kind of doesn't matter because the complementary aspect of football means in every given game, the offense and the defense needs to work together. And they did just enough in this one to be able to get the win. And honestly, that's all that really matters, right? I think this is a good defense. They do have a lot of continuity. They will be up there amongst the best, but give it a second, right? There's the difference between Team 1 and Team 32 feels huge in terms of when you look at scores, and a lot of people look at some of those giant scores and look at the disparity between the Broncos and the Dolphins, but a lot of that you can't really look at those games and say, hey, this is exactly who these teams are.
Visiting with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. The offensive line, you mentioned that for Zach Wilson and how much better it was in this game, and even just a little bit of time to throw here or there. It may come off as just just a simplistic question, or even dumb to ask the question, but the connection between the offensive line and the offense overall, the running game, how much is it connected to? Well, the blocking was there, so the running back looked good. The running game was good. Okay, so the passing game was there. Okay, the offensive line did that. What percentage would you look at and say, if there is one, of okay, the success of the offense? Well, yes, because of the offensive line. This is what the offensive line has done. This is why that offense is as successful as it is. And there's a couple of reasons why I'm asking that. But just in general, what would you point to if it's this is the connection between just how good the offensive line is and just in general, this offense being good, bad, or terrible?
Well, I think that there's 2 things. First, just look at early down success, because giving yourself an opportunity to be in 3rd and short, if you're Zach Wilson, who, let's be fair, he doesn't really we can't say definitively that he understands how to read defenses. We don't know, right? I don't know what he's seeing, but there's enough data about him there to say, I don't think he knows on 3rd and long, and if the defense shows a false leverage, there's a good chance that this guy probably – the defense gets the advantage. Let's put it nicely, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, you have to say on early downs, if you're keeping it to like third and short, or if you're converting on early downs with your run game, then that's significantly better. And then third, all of the pre-snap motions and tricks to kind of give him a little bit of help in terms of diagnosing what the defense happens to be. That is all, like all of those things worked together in this specific game. They don't always work together, but they really got the game plan, and listen, I think we can all imagine a scenario where, like, you don't want to get embarrassed on Sunday Night Football, right? The entire world's looking at you. So you want to really, you get up extra special when you play Patrick Mahomes on a Sunday night. You do not want to embarrass yourself. So I think Zach Wilson they had a good game plan. They executed it really well. The interior of the O-line really, like, held up well, and they were able to kind of escape some of the extra terrible situation. Like, there were no 3rd and 35s, right? Like, they were early down success, made a huge difference.
And for the Chiefs in that game, and one of the reasons I'm asking that is because, the first half, the first 3 drives, the Chiefs put 17 points on the board. And their 7 drives against the Bears when Patrick Mahomes played, he got taken out of the game, and then Blaine Gabbert played a couple of snaps. So the 7 drives Mahomes played, they scored 41 points. They scored all 7 drives. So they had 10 straight drives where they were putting points on the board. And they weren't really pressured all them. And the offensive line looked awesome. And there was time to throw, and there were holes to run through. And then when the Chiefs were up 17-0, the Jets did a great job adjusting, and they were running stunts, and they were running different things, and the Chiefs' offensive line started breaking down a little bit, and the offense looked very choppy. It didn't look nearly as in rhythm. And I bring that question up just because, like, it sounds overly simplistic of like, okay, the Chiefs' offensive line was really good, and therefore the offense was really good. We rely on Patrick Mahomes to go and create these different things, even if the offensive line breaks down. But I was watching the All-22 the other night, and there's so many questions around here, Cynthia, about is this wide receiver group good enough for this Chiefs team? Why did the offense struggle? Well, the wide receivers aren't any good. Well, the offense didn't do this. Yeah, it's the wide receivers. Well, the offense were awesome. Well, the wide receivers were great that game. Like, somehow it's all, connected to whether or not the wide receivers had a good game or not. And as I'm watching the All-22, there are plays that the wide receivers are coming open and the offensive line breaks down. That it wasn't happening those first 3 drives when they were, putting points on the board. And guys were open. It's weird. Well, Mahomes had a lot of time to throw, and guys eventually come open. So, I mean, I don't know that it's just simply one is definitely connected to the other. There might be some issues with the wide receivers, but I do think on Monday night or Sunday night, there were some plays where the timing was off that Mahomes ends up getting pressured, and whether he's throwing it away or not, it's like, well, did anybody get open? Yeah, somebody was getting open. Right. It's just the interior of the offensive line broke down. It's just that Quinnen Williams won in his rep. Right. It's just there was a holding call because this guy got beat on that rep, and it might have been different because now you're getting into the rhythm, right? You get a penalty, you get a negative play, the rhythm's thrown off. Okay, that miss on that block didn't happen. Here's 10 yards. Now you're in rhythm. Now you're going, and you get to the next play, and things sort of go downhill. In a good way. Snowball rolling downhill in a good way.
Right. Look, I think that they all work together, and the good news about Patrick is that he can erase a lot of the problems when it doesn't always work out. So Quinnen Williams will win sometimes. I mean, Quinnen Williams, there's a reason they paid him. He's not like one of those guys who we ever would argue is overpaid, right? Like, he has proven his worth. So it's the same thing. Like, I mean, you've seen it with Chris Jones. Like, they rush from a very similar spot. So sometimes you see the opportunity is, listen, sometimes our guy wins, sometimes your guys win. It's strength versus strength. It's not necessarily like, it's not going to look good every time. But Patrick is the ultimate eraser for that, making the O-line better. And also, Isaiah Pacheco and his kind of emergence as being a really reliable, and it looked like he had good vision, meaning like, you saw him run different types of runs, and he was efficient in all of them. So I think that matters too, and it's never sexy on a Patrick Mahomes team to be like, hey, like, the running back was great, right? Like, you always want to see Patrick throw, like, from every arm angle and in every way possible because it's so much fun. But on some level, it's like, let's, like, not make him have to do everything, and that's kind of what really helped kind of right the ship when some of those Quinnen Williams rushes happen. And you got to remember, this defense, you think of the Jets, and we maybe think of, like, past Jets teams that were like, meh, the Jets, this is not that. Like, their defense is excellent. Like, you just can't argue with that. Like, obviously they're not as good without Aaron Rodgers. Great, we all get that. But the defense has done a really good job of showing different types of pressures from lots of different places. They've really performed well. They've got a lot of different guys that are rush from a lot of different positions. I mean, like, Bryce Huff he's not even playing all the snaps, and he was really impactful in this game.
He's been really good this year. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. A lot of talk about officials and penalties coming out of that game on Sunday night. Not sure that you heard or not, but there were a lot of discussion, some think pieces that were made about that. I'm just wondering, like from an analytics standpoint, the difference in value or how punitive a penalty is based on time and quarter and maybe even score, because that's sort of the argument that's been going on around here the last couple of days is, well, yeah, that should have been, that wasn't a holding call on around here versus like maybe nationally. The holding call shouldn't have happened. It wasn't a holding call on Sauce Gardner. And because it was late, it was so much more impactful, even though the face mask on Jawan Taylor started outside the end zone. It was still a safety, but the Chiefs were up 17-0, and it was the second quarter, and plenty of time to overcome that. It was the horse collar / non-face mask on Derek Nottie. That was a 30-yard different penalty. Would have been 1st and 30 for the Jets at their own 39. Instead, it was 1st and 10 for the Jets at the Chiefs' 29. They scored a touchdown on that. There was 9, but that was in the second quarter. So, like, does that matter or not? Like, the value of how punitive a penalty is it, and should it be weighted as greatly as it seems like 9 points for the Jets in the first half versus a holding call in the fourth quarter that then the Jets still had 4 minutes to go, only down by 3 to get a stop and get off the field? How do those things shake out? What's the weight? Is it that much more impactful for a 5-yard penalty in the fourth quarter as opposed to a 15 or more significant penalty in the first or second?
I'll be honest with you. If I had the answer to this, my bosses would give me a lot more money and put me in the league office.
We're about to send Cynthia to the league office. Here we go. She's got the answer.
Right. but the reality is like calls happen at an irregular pace. I spent a lot of time looking at this, and some crews call things more leniently. Some crews call things more stringently. It does. I mean, look, time left does matter because, especially, no one knows that more than Chiefs fans with 13 seconds left against the Bills, exactly like how little time you need to be really, really impactful. But the truth is unfortunately, if we could predict when a bad call would happen, like a lot of things would be easier, right? Or at least a suspect call. Mm-hmm. The reality is they try to kind of even out the poor calls, and they try to, I don't know. That's way above my pay grade, and I don't have a great answer. But the reality is it does seem to be that, the time in the game left will be the most important factor. However, the number of points earned off of it, to me, is the thing it should be tied to, right? If those 9 points that's a lot. 9 is a lot of points, right? Like, just in general. So it's very hard to, like, I see the arguments all the way. The hard part is it doesn't happen with enough I don't know how you police it, right?
Yeah.
Like, they are the police. So there's really no way to say, like, okay, this is overly punitive. I know that they do a debrief every week in the league, and they are always getting better. It is an imperfect science to be, a ref in this league, like, and the competition committee doesn't want to use, like, electronic stuff. So, like, these are all things that there just is no answer. So sometimes you're going to be on the side of it that feels better, and sometimes you're going to be on the side that doesn't. But it's such an unsatisfying result. But I don't know how else we can stop it, because those are literally the police.
No, I tweeted it after the game as, death taxes and losing team only paying attention to calls that fit their narrative and ignoring calls that benefited them throughout the game. That's a tale as old as time. Like, there are things that happen throughout a game that go your way, things that happen throughout a game that don't go your way. I told Josh on Monday, I'm so mad at myself because when they called the horse collar on Derek Nottie, and he had the front of his jersey, and it was clearly not a horse collar, but Breece Hall was actually pulling his face mask down, so it should have been 15 yards the other way. I almost tweeted out and said, hey, let's remember this if anything happens later on, or do we not care because it's only the second quarter and it's just a difference of 30 yards in the game? And I didn't tweet it, and I'm so mad I didn't, because then later on in the game, it was like, well, the Chiefs got every call. Like, you overcome it, and that sucks. And if the Chiefs go into the playoffs this year, a Super Bowl, and there's a call late and they end up losing a game because it might have been controversial, well, sometimes you got to overcome it. Sometimes you got to be in a position to overcome those things. And And the Chiefs were on Sunday night, and they were in the Super Bowl as well. And those things happen throughout the game. If the Chiefs weren't up 17-0, then maybe the Jets could overcome that. But that 17 points happened in the first quarter, Cynthia, so I guess the first quarter does matter, even though there might be penalties.
Yeah.
So it does matter maybe as much as other ones? I'm not sure.
I think maybe what we should really say is that maybe we're not giving Patrick Mahomes enough credit for being able to get control of his like don't we all wish that we could just be like chill in the face of adversity? And like I feel like to get your composure and be able like some guys would just lose their mind in that situation, and it seems like the Chiefs, and specifically Patrick Mahomes, who touches the ball in every single play, was able to really kind of pull it together. Like that's maybe what we need to learn from it, not like like I don't know, like because every single team, every single fan base, every single football fan knows at least one or two plays, one or two just absolutely key plays that they think they just totally got like hosed on, and it's part of it. So maybe we just take away the good that Patrick has, like the kind of the disposition we all wish we could have.
Yeah, he's cool in the face of pressure, and I get annoyed when the light turns yellow as I'm driving. I'm like, no, it's just out of a no. Just stay. You've cost me at least 45 seconds here, and I am not going to be able to overcome this today. This is going to bother me the rest of the day. 45 seconds is now lost to this light, and Mahomes like, 3rd and 25. I guess we'll have to find a way to win it. It's got to be better. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. What do you think of Chiefs Vikings this weekend? 3:25 there in Minnesota. Do you have an idea of maybe how the game will play out and a score if you have one in mind?
I do. I think this is going to be a nice, solid win for the Chiefs. I think this is where we see like the wide receivers. Like we talked about it last week. I said we want the wide receivers to have a good game and like see who they are. In this game, it would be weird if they didn't. Like I said, man, and zone. I don't care what the back end of the coverage looks like. It's about a 70%. So 7 out of 10 balls are being caught. That's pretty insane. Like that's like, I mean, I obviously like, you got to adjust a little bit for Carolina not being as proficient with the passing, but Justin Jefferson will keep this game interesting because Justin Jefferson is about as reliable as they come. But I do think that you got to see which of these wide receivers really steps up and shows you like that they can just put their minds to it and figure out like the yards after the catch is going to be there's a lot of separation that this team gives. There's a lot of opportunities for big gains. So who's going to step up?
Interesting. We'll see what happens. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. As always, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the football, and we will talk next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Cynthia Freeland. Great stuff from her, as always. Chiefs and Vikings coming up 3:25 on Sunday. And, this is one that we've talked a little bit about on the secondary for the Vikings, that it would be – this is one where the Chiefs' passing game should get right. Take the overs on Mahomes and overs on some wide receivers and Kelsey and things like that, because the back end, their secondary is trash. And as you said, 7 out of 10 balls when you're adjusting for different efficiencies on offense. 7 out of 10 balls caught against the back end of that Vikings defense. It's not good. Chiefs are going from a trash Bears secondary to one of the best secondaries in the league in the Jets to a trash secondary against the Vikings. It will be the Jekyll and Hyde of these 3 weeks of the wide receivers are fine, the wide receivers suck, the wide receivers are fine, it's all good, just by who they're playing.
We'll hear from one of those receivers coming up. It's Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I guessed right. All right.
And a defensive secondary player. Since you're guessing, since you're on 5, since you're 1 for 1.
Hold on. Defensive secondary.
I think you're gonna. I think you might get it.
Snead.
Oop, nope. Get it one more.
Reed.
Last guess.
McDuffie.
Mike Edwards, just like you said. So Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and Mike Edwards will speak to the media here in about, we'll call it 20 minutes or so.
I had a very reasonable reason for the guess of L'Jarius Sneed, is that he followed Garrett Wilson last week, and he may follow Justin Jefferson this week. So you've got back-to-back 2 of the best wide receivers in the league that you might be in charge of just traveling with.
Sure. That would be fascinating to hear about.
He also wouldn't give that much detail.
He would not.
Doesn't typically go that in-depth. I would love to hear the way that Justin Reed answers questions,
Yeah.
From the standpoint of L'Jarius Sneed last week and this week against Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson. That would be fascinating to hear. But we're gonna hear from Mike Edwards, who had an awesome game, got a sack and almost an interception.
And I know we heard from him during training camp at some point. I'm not sure we've heard from him since, and he's had a really large role that has been, I think, probably a little under-discussed because the third safety has been something, mercifully, you can kind of forget about a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks to him playing some real good football this year.
But I'm also fine never having to hear from anybody that played football at Kentucky either, so I'm good with that too. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and Mike Edwards. Somebody should ask Mike Edwards about the BS call in the UK-Mizzou game a number of years ago. That was the a clear offensive pass interference call on Kentucky, but they called defensive pass interference on Mizzou, which gave them a one free untimed down at the 2-yard line. With Mizzou winning the game by more than a field goal. And then the next play, their tight end went and just chucked the Missouri cornerback into, I think, the second row. I think he picked him up and threw him into the second row and then turned around for a touchdown that was wide open. There was no flag there. They should ask him about that just to see what his thoughts are on those particular and penalties just in general and things like that, and how much officials can screw over a team like the Jets were by the officials on Sunday night, is what I'm saying.
Maybe we can get Rodney Harrison out there to just be like, hey,
Please.
man, who's more trash, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields? Like, you've played two real trash Garbo QBs. Who was a bigger embarrassment to the sport of football? I'm Rodney Harrison.
By the way, apparently Rodney Harrison called Zach Wilson the next day.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah.
I forgot also another thing that's like happened that we never talked about. Just grilling Chris Jones. Like, but like, call Zach Wilson a little bleep. Go, like, just really talk something here.
Yeah, but also, like, you called him and apologized to him and then talked to Robert Saleh and straighten it out. Will you then say the same things you told Zach Wilson on the broadcast? Because for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have shown that clip over and over again, all you're doing is talking about how terrible Zach Wilson is and how awful he is, and it must be only the Chiefs because this guy's trash. To Chris, trying to get Chris Jones to say he's trash, and Chris is like, no, this guy's talented. You saw that. But privately, he did tell Zach Wilson, my bad.
Which, like, has to carry as much water as a thimble. Like, you not even like, hey, make sure you also set the record straight after the fact, too, which I'm with you on, but he will never be able to praise Zach Wilson loudly enough to reach as many people as that video did. But the other thing, man, is like, hey, like, Joe Namath's an old man who was a little cranky on the phone, on the radio, and if Zach Wilson got a call from Joe Namath and said, hey, man, I know what it's like to be in your shoes.
But I want to kiss you right now.
I could, you know what, Zach? I could care less about you struggling. I want to help you.
You're so pretty. I want to kiss you.
Like, he could call Zach Wilson and be like, all right, look, I was talking out of my bleep. I really, I'd put my foot in my mouth and then all of that. I mean, if I was talking out of my bleep and put my foot in my mouth, I think I actually put my foot. Anyway.
And next week on the show, like, I'll be, But
right.
Because he was nicer to him on the Michael K show of like, well, Robert knows him. And
you can say, you know what? Hey, he showed me some stuff that I didn't think he was going to show me. And that, I got a little resilience from Zach Wilson. Mm-hmm. Neat. Rodney Harrison on national TV was just trying to bait Chris Jones into trashing Zach Wilson.
Like,
what do you think he meant it when he called Zach Wilson and apologized? I mean, like, I don't know, man. I think Ryan Clark and Tua had their little dance, and that was about as far as I was willing to go.
I think he meant it from the standpoint that he probably feels bad because he was a player once too.
Yeah.
And had to deal with people saying that, whether about him or his teammates, and he knows what it's like. And you know what? I probably did overstep a little bit with that. Let me call Zach and tell him, hey, it's nothing personal, dude. It is nothing personal against you. It's all about the play on the field. And, hey, I did it too, Zach. I had to go through it too, and I had to learn that those talking heads, it wasn't about who I am personally. It was just about how I was playing the game that particular day, and that's all I'm doing with you as well. I'm analyzing your play, everything you're great. I have no idea what he said, but you're great, dude. All that's nothing against you, dude. I want you to succeed. I hope you go out and continue to ball out and prove me wrong. In fact, don't even worry about what I say. Just go prove me wrong, but just know it's only about the play on the field.
But I am going to be on TV doing the exact same bleep that everybody else does. I will follow those footsteps.
Like, I think Rodney Harrison, because he played and probably had that happen a couple times, was probably like, you know what, maybe I should call him. Maybe I did go too far or whatever. But, like,
you could also just be a little better, Rodney.
Just be like, oh, you really think that, Chris? Like, you really think that? Okay. All right. That's fine. Because he made some freaking good throws. And that's why I brought it up with Cynthia. It's like, you get into a point to where we talk so specifically about the Chiefs when we're talking about these games and what the Chiefs did or didn't do. What did the Chiefs do? What did the Chiefs not do? What did the Chiefs should have done better? What did they not do better? What did they do great? How did they overcome? How was it about the Chiefs? And when you're talking about the defense and you go, well, they gave up 18 points to Zach freaking Wilson, and for a month you've been talking about how much Zach Wilson sucks, to then go, yeah, man, but Zach Wilson made some really good throws. Okay, so the Chiefs can never do anything wrong.
Right.
So the Chiefs didn't have anything. It was just Zach Wilson just played so far out of his ass that's why it made the Chiefs look a little bit worse than what you were saying they were for a few weeks. Okay, cool. That must be nice to be in a position where they never make a mistake. I think some of that is true. I also think they didn't put pressure on him nearly enough. That's legit. They didn't put pressure on him nearly enough for an offensive line that was trash. That's where you can say, well, they didn't play well enough. The throws on that touchdown drive that Zach Wilson made coming out of halftime were freaking legit throws, all three of them. And that was 60 yards of the 75 that were on 3 throws by Zach Wilson. Props on that particular drive. The other drive, he was benefited by a BS call. And also a non-call of a face mask that should have been on Michael Dana. But those things happen. But, yeah, he was good in spurts on Sunday. they have to say. So, Vikings this weekend. I am interested in going back and watching the tape with Patrick Mahomes as to how he played. Just simply because I don't think he played all that well. Mm-hmm. I think he talked about it after the game that didn't really feel like he played all that well, but after watching the tape and seeing some of the things, like what's he seeing out there, and what did he see from his performance? Because Andy had mentioned on those interceptions that maybe just tuck it and run, and until he had said that on Monday's press conference, then going back and watching that first interception, like Mahomes had about 15 yards in the middle of the field where he could have just run. He could have just run the ball. Instead, when he sort of went to his left a little bit and then looked back to his right and stopped and threw it, had he just tucked his head going to his left and just tucked the ball and when it's a first down for Patrick Mahomes. But it seems like he's more in that mindset on third down or in the fourth quarter later on, and maybe that's just, I don't know, but it just feels like that. First down, I'm going to push the ball down the field here, and I got an opportunity to get that there. I don't need to run the ball.
Well, I mean,
it's play.
I think it works with that Mina Kimes stat that you mentioned on Monday, that he doesn't rank amongst elite dual-threat quarterbacks in most rushing categories, but no quarterback in the league has a higher conversion rate when running on third down. That is a guy who is not running except for when he feels like, all right, got time to call my own number, and then you see the moments happen there.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like it might be a little bit still on the presser front. So the other thing that Reed said on Monday that I'm going to be listening for today that I just think is really interesting, both in comparing to the Jets last week and what the Vikings might do this week. Reed, we saw this part was evident. The Jets were, quote, settling back, which is leaving the flats open, setting back there, helping the run game be a little easier to get moving, let Mahomes run, because the Jets were playing a pretty extreme version of keep it in front of us kind of stuff, which, again, when you've got MVS and Justin Watson playing huge numbers of your plays, Matt Lane has coined the term slow burners.
Oh, it's interesting.
It's a really good description, because MVS and Watson have great speed.
It just takes them a while to get up to
but that's exactly right. So if you let them behind you, Mahomes has the arm to punish you for that, which, again, hey, maybe the MVS and Justin Watson then force an entire defense to, metaphorically, take a big step backwards, so it's easier for the running game to work. There's some value there. That's fine. But Reed said he expects a lot of man coverage against Minnesota. So they got some from the Jets, but not like the Vikings will. And that was interesting to me, because that seems, I was talking to Seth Kaiser about that. And
Name dropper.
I know, sorry. You can listen to him on the program.
Wow.
But we were talking about that a little bit.
I was talking to Soren Petro about it. I just one-upped you.
But like I ran that by him, and he was like, well, that's not really what the Vikings do, though. And so the two options here are either, one, that the Vikings are going to, that Andy Reid thinks the Vikings are going to change tendencies a little bit to man up a little more often for whatever reason, or Andy Reid's just bleeping with us, and that was just a thing he said on Monday, to have the Vikings hear him on Monday to be like, hey, guys, they're prepping for us to play a lot of man. We're going to play a lot of deep zone. And Isaiah Pacheco's going to run for 200 yards on Sunday. I don't know if it's chess or checkers there, but it's interesting.
Here's Andy Reid.
As far as the injuries go, Matt Dickerson, his knees swelled up a little bit, but he'll be all right. He just has swollen knee, so he won't practice today. Everybody else will practice. Jalen Watson will give it a whirl, as Nick Bolton will. So both just went through the walkthrough. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Vikings. They've got obviously good players. Kevin does a nice job as the head coach and play caller, and Brian Flores we've gone against several times, and he's very creative, brings people from everywhere, also plays just regular zone and man, but he does have quite a blitz package. Wes Phillips, again, working with Kevin on that offensive side, and does a nice job. So along with good skill, and their defensive front is good, as is their offensive front. So anyways, for that time, George.
Andy, you said you talked about Pat saying he got greedy in that with his interceptions and everything. I know you've got different levels on every play, and there's different places to go with the ball, but can you be guilty of getting maybe greedy with the play calling, and you got it rocking and rolling, and
I mean, I'll take the blame first before he's greedy. I mean, he's not. Absolutely, yeah. For you, anything.
Coach, I know Pat has always talked about spreading the ball around, but is there a concern with your starting wide receivers? They have a collective total of 22 receptions, 273 yards. That you're not getting the most out of that group right now?
Well, we have a couple young guys that we're kind of bringing along, but I think they're doing a pretty good job. Yeah.
How do you contain a player like Justin Jefferson who can change the play, change the game in one play?
Yeah, he's a heck of a player. You know, you have to cover him. I mean, that's a simple thing to say, but you know, you're aware of him obviously for his skill. So you have to be creative, but most of all, you got to cover the guy. That's the best thing you can do.
And what do you see from Sky Moore right now?
Yeah, I like what Sky's doing. We're rotating a bunch of guys in there, so nobody's got an extreme amount of catches on this, but you know, that's just how it's going to be. I mean, we have 6-7 guys that can play, you know, and so we're putting them all in here and there. But I like what I've seen from him. Yeah, he's doing good.
And with that rotation, like when you go back and watch film, do you think you're getting enough open receivers on plays?
Well, I mean, you know, it looked like it. I mean, got a couple 100 yards in the first quarter. That wasn't bad. You know, so I think guys were, you know, 400 yards a week before. I mean, somebody's getting open, right?
Coach Reed, Rasheed's coming in here in a minute. What have you seen from him in his progression?
Yeah, and I know he had the drop. I got that. But he does a great job of catching the ball and getting upfield. You can see his skill, and again, he's learning the game right now, the NFL game. But you're seeing progress every week. You see something that says, you know what, this guy's not a bad player. So
that's been a big part of it. Looking at those 2 runs that Pat made on that last drive, I mean, he's been pretty efficient in those kinds of situations over the years. What makes him so good in those situations?
Yeah, well, he's got a good feel. Yeah. He has a good feel of the coverage and, you know, who's dropping out of there and the time element that's involved with that. And you know, he's smart when he does it. In certain situations, he knows he can do that. Other times, you know, it's not going to be available. So, but he's got a good feel for it.
Coach Isaiah had. Go ahead.
You mentioned Rice and his ability after the catch, and obviously when teams are dropping back playing deep in zone, that's an area where Tyreek or other guys have filled in. Are you guys hoping that Rasheed can grow into that role, as be a yard after the catch guy in that short passing game and create some explosive plays?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you saw it the last couple of weeks where he catches, gets himself upfield, gets a couple nice yaks in there. Been doing well in the red zone area, and yeah, that's I think will be a positive in his game going forward.
Coach Isaiah had one of his best statistical games all around, receiving and rushing. How does a young guy parlay that, you know, for the rest of the season?
Yeah, consistency is what you're looking for. Obviously, when people know that you're a good player, you know, they're going to try to do things to stop you. So it's important that the offensive line, tight ends, and he are on the same page, and that they all do their job and make the thing happen. But the one thing you're going to get from him is he's going to go 100 miles an hour,
right,
and you know, run hard every time he gets an opportunity, whether he catches it or runs it. He's going hard.
You talked about him 100 miles an hour, but could you see a different level of energy at him being at home?
I know he was excited to be there, but he's always. You know, I know he's excited, but he's always high octane. I mean, he's high octane in practice, so it's all the time.
Coach, you mentioned the man looks from the Jets, and you said you kind of expect the same type of thing, maybe even more from Minnesota, especially with young receivers, young pass catchers. What are some of the coaching points this week?
I didn't catch the first part.
You said that you saw a lot of man against the Jets, expecting even more this week. What are some of the coaching points for some of these younger pass catchers?
Yeah, well, you know, you got to win versus man. That's what you have to do, and we did a decent job on that against the Jets. So I think with the young guys, they'll just keep getting better at that as we go. Jets did a nice job of blending things, and so does Brian. I mean, he's going to give you a variety of looks, and you just have to be smart with it and how you handle the looks.
Andy, this is a time where obviously you want to see Kadarius Toney sort of grow and progress in the offense. Just do you feel like he's someone that you need to highlight or give more touches to as the season moves along?
Yeah, so I think his foot's feeling better as he goes here, and that's a concern when you have a guy that plays like he does, very, very aggressive. The toe goes on him. I mean, still, I told you before, he had a hard time getting his shoe on when he hurt it. So, but just bringing him back slowly, I think it was important to this point, and we'll see how he does this week.
Andy,
Couple more guys.
I see y'all have a light day of practice today. How much does not looking ahead to that Thursday night game, but kind of looking ahead to it, how much does that preparation start the week before? Just on that short week.
Yeah, for next week you're saying?
Yeah, like how do you string guys along to make sure that they're ready for that short week?
Yeah. Well, we had a late travel. We got back 4 o'clock in the morning, so or whatever it was, and so it was a late night. So we'll lighten it up today. Still going fast, just got out a couple plays, and then be ready. Be ready to go tomorrow. And then it's just a feel. I mean, I just go off of how I feel.
Coach, just to make sure, the production that you're getting from your wide receivers, you're satisfied with it at the moment. You don't think you may need to bring another player in or whatever to help out with the wide receiving core?
Yeah, no, we're fine. Yeah.
We'll go last three. We'll start with Todd and work our way over. Gotcha.
With Juwan, didn't have any alignment issues last week, but still a couple penalties. How do you keep his confidence up, but also work with him to clean things up, since I think he's already got a career high in 4 games?
Yeah, he's working on it. We'll just keep on it as we go. I mean, that's the only thing you can do is keep working it.
Last two.
Coach Reed, Patrick has a chance to beat Minnesota, the only team he hasn't beaten, obviously, other than the Chiefs. I mean, amazing stat for as long as he's been playing.
Right. Yeah. No. It is, and we got a lot of work to do before we get up there. So, but I think that right now we're just all focused on trying to get things right. But it is an amazing stat for him, yeah, for sure.
Last one, sir.
Coach, I'm kind of following up on what Steve was talking about with Isaiah. How hard he runs, how physically he runs. Is that a part of the game? Like, does that work like the body blows, of a boxing match? Like, is that something you think enhances your offense and is a necessary part to soften up the other elements of the defense?
Yeah, sure. I think he brings good energy to that group. And I'm including the running backs. I mean, you've seen Hilaire going. I mean, he's running like crazy too, so he's doing a nice job. And McKinnon is, he runs hard likewise. So it's but I think he brings energy to everybody, to the whole offense. I think that's a positive thing. And then it's important that we have the other two guys that you can rotate them in and let them, give them a blow every once in a while.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
All right, there's Andy Reid. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB, Kansas City. There's a number of things I want to take away from that. But that last part, too, before we get Patrick Mahomes, that is one thing that it maybe is a misnomer about the Chiefs is they're a physical team. They are not a finesse, high-scoring team. They're physical. And Pacheco and Trey Smith is a jerk on the field. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, the mental side of it, I mean, obviously, he's able to really dissect defenses, get the ball to the right spot. You can tell that they put a lot on him to be able to check at the line of scrimmage, which I thought was really cool to see. And then physically, man, I mean, he took a beating last year, but he just came back every time and stood in there and made throws. And so he's a guy that you can tell loves football and loves going out there and competing every single week.
Through 4 games, you're scrambling just a lot more. As you kind of look back at I guess, quarter-ish through the season, what do you think generally has led to some of that?
Yeah, I'd probably just say more coverage. Haven't had a lot of pressure yet. I mean, obviously probably get some more this week. And so they're playing a lot more coverage, dropping deep into coverages, and so it's open lanes for me to scramble. And that's something that I've always done. Just usually happens later in the season more than early. So just trying to do whatever I can to go out there and win.
You were talking about your speed after the game the other night. You ever look at a guy like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, one of the running quarterbacks, and say, I wish I had that kind of, I wish I could run like that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does. But I think what makes those dudes so great is they can throw the football too. And so I just got to be able to throw the football, and then whenever the opportunity comes, just get enough yards to keep the chains moving.
But you've been really efficient running in those kinds of situations, doing what needed to be done. What goes into that? Like, how do you attribute that?
I think it's just being a competitor. I'm just trying to move the chains, and obviously I want to throw for it, I want to make the throws, but when the opportunity arises, just if I'm going to take it, make sure I go get the first down. And so that's just something to get the balance throughout an NFL season, is when to run for it and when to slide and when to throw the football and try to find ways to win games.
As you looked at the tape, what jumped out? You didn't look like yourself at times throwing the football as a fan, just watching. What jumped out on the tape?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play very well. It happens. Two of the interceptions just underthrew by 5 to 10 yards, and missed some opportunities throughout the game. And so I just got to put us in better positions and making better decisions so that the guys can go out there and work for me and make plays down the field.
Patrick, I know I've asked you this before about your connection with some of your receivers, but when you look at your starting receivers of Tony, MVS, and more, they combined 22 catches, 273 yards for the season thus far. Is there anything that they're not doing, or that you're seeing, or that you're not doing, that their production value may go up some?
Yeah, I mean, I just haven't played very, very good to start the season, so I think if I start playing better, everybody will start playing better.
Patrick, early, I mean, we've seen you come back from early deficits, but generally speaking, is there any sort of snowball effect, a cumulative effect, when you feel like you're not playing your best, that does it factor at all late in the game?
I don't think it can. I mean, I think you just have to go out there and keep shooting it down the field. I mean, that's how I've always been wired. You just come in every single day and work and try to continue to get better. Usually that stuff kind of figures itself out. And I've had spots like this throughout my career where I haven't had the best few weeks in a row, and so I have to make sure that I just can go back to the fundamentals. And try to be better for the team, and then rely on other guys to make plays. And I think that's somewhere where I can be better. It's just getting the ball out of my hand and letting these other guys make plays, kind of like what I did at the end of the game a little bit more.
You said fundamentals. Is that footwork until it looked like you mouthed throw the ball after that first interception? Is that footwork?
Yeah, I mean, I rely on my arm a lot sometimes, and obviously on the first interception I kind of faded, both of them really. I faded away from the throw instead of just stepping into it and make the throw. And so that's just myself, just going back to the fundamentals of stuff. Is when it's not necessarily coming out of your hand the best way, you have to go back to your fundamentals and get that stuff down before you can try the sidearms and the fadeaway throws and stuff like that.
We'll talk to Rasheed in a second. What are some of the things that you've seen in the way you said that he's kind of come along as the season has gone on?
Yeah, I mean, he's just learning. He has all the talent in the world. He's just learning how to read coverages, how to be in the progression of this offense. And I think y'all see how talented he is once he makes the catch, and he's moving down the field. And so he's a tough physical runner. He's explosive. I think as the season goes on, he'll continue to get better and better.
Patrick, what are you seeing from Sky right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's the same thing, man. A lot of young guys that are learning as they go. Sky has a lot of talent. He's done a great job of getting better, even from last year and throughout this season. And I think it's just we're going to keep finding a way in this offense. And like I said, I think if I play better and throw some of those passes, I'm at the right time in the right spot. I'll let these guys go out there and make plays.
Patrick, what do you expect from the Vikings defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a well-coached defense. Coach Flores, I've played a couple of times, him as a head coach, him as some coordinators in all different positions. They're very well coached. They're very well of knowing the scheme and being in the right spots. They do a good mix of pressure and dropping out of pressure and try to make it look the same. And so it'll be a great challenge for us. And we'll have to execute at a high level in order to have success this weekend.
Minnesota is one of the teams that you haven't beat, obviously you haven't played. Was that something on your checklist to beat every team?
I mean, I just want to win every week. I mean, it's not necessarily like beating this team because I haven't played them or anything like that. I just try to go in with the to win that game.
Was that something on your checklist to beat every team?
I mean, I just want to win every week. I mean, it's not necessarily like beating this team because I haven't played them or anything like that. I just try to go in with the mentality week in and week out of just finding a way to win that game. We did that last week, and now let's try to find a way to win against a really good football team this week.
Patrick used the term greedy the other day, and it seems like the vast majority of the time that's your judgment is exactly what you want it to be. I wonder if you could describe, though, how that's a constant work in progress to have the right gauge of it.
Yeah, no, it's something that I have to continue to get better and better at throughout my career. I mean, sometimes when stuff maybe not going as well, or if I want to kind of get that deep shot going, I'll try to force it. Whereas there's just times where I got to just throw the ball away or take the check down, and it goes against my nature. But it's something that you have to do at this quarterback position in order to have success. And obviously, I made 2 throws in the game where I got really 3 throws. If you count the one MVS on the 3rd and long that I really got greedy and try to throw it down the field. Instead of just taking the underneath stuff. And so that's just stuff that I have to manage because I want to still have that aggressive nature, but at the same time, take what's there.
And it's still just something your whole career you'll have to kind of keep recalibrating? Is that
Yeah,
how it works?
yeah. I think that a lot of the great quarterbacks. I mean, you saw Tom even last year. I mean, he was throwing the ball down the field. You want to attack down the field because it makes defenses have to account for that. And you never want to be stuck throwing the check downs underneath every single time because that's when you can really condense the offense. And we take pride of being able to stretch it vertically and horizontally. And so that'll be something that I'll manage throughout my career.
We'll go Todd, Saran, and then Steve to close it out.
Pat, I was hoping you could speak to 2 things. One, I know you appreciate elite guys, so just Justin Jefferson, how good is he? And then if you could just, I know that you guys announced the partnership with Boys and Girls Club today. If you could speak to that.
Yeah, no. First off, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's great. I think it's talent, being able to recognize coverages, and I think what people really don't understand is how physical he is catching the football. If you watch the games, man, I mean, he will go up there and get it. He'll put his body on the line. You can tell he loves competing. He loves winning. And so I think that's what makes a lot of great players in this league, and that's why he's had so much success so early in his career. And then the partnership with Boys and Girls Club, I mean, it's something where, I mean, I remember practicing basketball, Boys and Girls Clubs growing up, and how fun that was, and how many great experiences I got to meet people and opportunities I got to play sports that I loved. And so I thought it was a great idea whenever they brought it to me to be able to partner with the Boys and Girls Clubs in the Kansas and Missouri, Lubbock, Texas, Tyler, Texas, White House, Texas, all the areas that I grew up in, and try to give those same opportunities to kids. And I think that fit perfectly with my 15 and my Homies Foundation.
Saran?
Patrick, a couple sidebars. I know on the field, I think you said you're not really interested in the records. They asked you about the 200 touchdown. But you moved one in front of Alex Smith. I'm curious if he called you, if you knew that he was at 199 and that passed him.
I did not know that. He didn't call me, but no, that was, I love Alex, man. So maybe I'll text him now, I guess, now that I know.
And then, listen, I'm not second guessing. We know why you slid down to end the game and everything, but does anybody come up to you, like betting fans really took note of that? That would have put the cover together. So I'm curious, do people call you? Do people buzz you? And say,
I think anyone that has my phone number knows better than call me about something like that.
Steve?
Patrick, you talked about Isaiah post game, but just looking at the film and seeing statistically he had one of his best games, what do you see from him going forward? How does he get that game into the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think that's what makes this team so great, and it's a great job by Brett Veach and Coach Reed of bringing in great players. Is even when I'm not playing my best, we got guys like Isaiah who can dominate the run game. We got an offensive line that can block the run game. We got a defense that can play great defense throughout the first 4 games of the year. And so it's not all on my shoulders to go out there and win the football game. I can just rely on my teammates to do stuff. And so throughout that game, last game, I mean, Isaiah was working, and even though we might have some of those RPO advantage throws, whatever you want to call them, it's like, man, let's just give this man the football and let him go. He accepted the challenge. And that's what makes this team great, like I said, is that it's not just me, it's everybody. And I think now we're really seeing that as these first 4 weeks have kind of went through.
And Coach mentioned consistency. How hard is it for a young guy to be consistent?
Yeah, I mean, if I've ever seen a young guy be consistent as that guy, I mean, it's like you have to calm him down because he wants to go as hard as he can every single play, and that's what the great ones do. And I mean, I don't know if y'all saw, like, he scored a touchdown, but I don't know if his feet ever landed in the touchdown because he, like, jumped all the way. I mean, that's his energy every single day, and just as much in the locker room, in the meeting room, and then on the practice field and on game days. And so I don't think we have to worry about him being consistent.
All right, so note to self, when you get Mahomes' phone number, don't call him about covering a spread or not. All right, there's Patrick Mahomes at the podium as they get ready for the Vikings coming up this weekend. Look, it is kind of curious. Like, have people actually, have they mentioned that to you? That, a lot of money changed hands in Vegas with that. Here's Mike Edwards.
We saw a little bit of insight on Kirk Cousins when we watched Netflix, and everybody in the world here watched it. But what do you expect from him, his competitiveness, and of course Jefferson?
Yeah, like you said, he's a true competitor. He's been playing in the league for a long time. He's a real vet out there. And we know he likes to give his playmakers the ball. He has playmakers all over the field. You mentioned Justin Jefferson. He's one of the best receivers in the game right now. So we got to take away him, his explosive plays. We know what he likes to do. Got to stop from yards after catch. And then in receivers and playmakers he has around him. You have T.J. Hawkinson, great tight end, like to give him the ball. He's a good playmaker. Jordan Addison, a rookie. He real explosive, real fast. So just guys like that all over the field, got to take them away and just limit their explosive plays.
But how do you take Jefferson out of the equation as far as getting those yards after a catch? He seems to be able to do it regardless.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you stop that?
He's a good player. I mean, you just got to hone on tackling and swarming, having all 11 guys to the football, run to the football, and swarm to the football because, like you said, a guy like that is hard to bring down. It's hard to stop. But we got to practice on it in practice and harp on it. And like I said, getting all 11 guys to the ball.
What's Dave Merritt like as a position coach?
He's a great guy. I mean, he's not even talking about like football. He's talking about life and everything, what you need as to talk about secondary. Secondary has to be a tight-knit group. So he's a good coach, explains everything pretty well. And I try to get everybody on the same page. In Tampa, when I was in Tampa, we had a safeties and corners room. Here, I like how we have like a whole DB room, which is better. So I really like how he's taking on the leadership and trying to explain everything to us and get us on the right path.
Mike, you mentioned the Tampa days. You've been in the league a long time. When you're facing an elite receiver like Justin Jefferson, how important is it for the mental game of like, okay, he's going to hit me, but just come back the next play?
Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL. Like I say, he's one of the best receivers in the game. So it's hard to stop him play after play. But like I said, we have everybody come swimming to the ball and to try to limit the explosive plays. I mean, if you get a 5-yard catch, you can't turn a 5-yard until 60 yards, you know what I mean? So just try to, like I said, stop the explosive gains and be good.
Mike, I'm sorry, speaking of long plays, I want to get your thoughts on a play by one of your teammates Sunday, and that was Brian Cook's tackle on Brees Hall at midfield. Can you just tell me, what did you see and how did you appreciate that play?
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody appreciates it. I heard a lot of people come to him after the game, told him how big of a play that was. But I told him right after the play, I said, dude, that's a big play. I mean, it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. And you saved the game. I told him, look at the score. Like, the score would not be what it is right now if it wasn't for you. So, and people don't realize how hard that tackle is. I mean, it might go down like, oh, he just tackled him. But no, he has a whole field and just a blocker in front of him and everything, and that's real tough, especially with a running back like Brees Hall is a great runner, so definitely a big play.
Mike, I asked you in training camp about being in Todd Bowles' system and how that, of course, like switch to being in Spag's system. You're 4 games in. How comfortable are you now, and are you able to, play free? Yeah, definitely more comfortable, way more comfortable. It's a complicated defense, but as I expected to come in here, and when I signed here, I knew it would be complicated and challenging. But I took on that role and really accepted it. Yeah. And Spags is a great coach, a great defense coordinator. He knows exactly what he's doing out there. But yeah, from camp until now, it's light years away. Definitely better now for me.
Mike, to follow up on what Blair was asking about that tackle, this has been a good tackling secondary for a while. I mean, that's something they take pride in. Is it? You mentioned kind of some of the differences between Kansas City and Tampa. Is there a difference? Did they preach it more, or is it more they've got a group of guys that they put more of an emphasis on finding guys that can tackle? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of about the same, I guess. Spags do a good job of harping on tackling, wrapping up, getting the guy to the ground, however it may be. But yeah, we harp on that a lot, especially the secondary, because the last line of defense. So we really definitely harp on tackling, getting off the blocks, block shed and everything, and just getting the guys to the ground because it's a big part of the defense. And kind of the flip side, we watch Isaiah run, and he runs hard. I mean, yeah. I don't want to tackle him, right? Like, how much does happen to tackle a guy like that when you've come up against backs that are physical like he is? And how much does that maybe wear you out, take you out of your game? How much can it soften up a secondary when you have a hammer like that?
Yeah, it can, but it's more so like mental and everything. Like I say, he's a tough runner. Like a guy like Pac, tackle him all game. You don't want that, but you want more like D linemen to tackle guys like that. But it's like I said, more like a mental thing. More so like want to, I guess. So just gotta do what you gotta do.
Mike, and talking about Jefferson and Hawkinson, sometimes I think Addison might get lost in that conversation. He's a rookie, but what makes him unique, a unique challenge for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, don't really have a lot of film on him except for college and the 4 games he played against him. But he's definitely a speedy receiver, kind of light, not really big, but he definitely gets out his routes pretty well. And like I said, he's a good deep threat guy. I've seen him go over the top of a few times in the past 4 weeks. So he had a few touchdowns on a big play. So definitely got to stop him on that and not let it go over our heads.
Being with other teams, you mentioned they split up the quarterbacks and the safeties. Talking to Trent McDuffie, talking to Justin Reed, they really value the friendships, the away from the field activities, going to each other's house, doing different things. Is there something unique? Because you guys are like in perfect motion of swarming and tackling and reading each other. Is there something off the field that is a little different helping you on the field?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have to be a real tight group in the secondary. I feel like offensive line and the DBs have to be a real close group of guys because you have to talk. You have to be on the same page because, I mean, as a secondary, if one person is off, and then it'd be a touchdown. You know what I mean? So we always try to have a DB dinner on Thursdays or hang out at each other's house, like you said, do something off the field, which builds our chemistry up. So, we have each other back. If somebody misses a play, misses a tackle or anything, we know we have each other back and just keep each other up.
But is that more here than any other places you've been?
Yeah, I only been to Tampa, but I mean, like I said, I feel like every group of guys, especially DBs, have to stay close. So we had a good group, tight group in Tampa as well. But I definitely like this group. I definitely feel comfortable in where we're going, and it's a young group. It's a young group, so we all around the same age or whatever. So I feel like we really bonded pretty well and building our chemistry up.
Thank you. Last one, anybody? Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, there's Mike Edwards, safety. Mike Safety Edwards for the Chiefs. Mike Edwards, safety for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a big task this weekend against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and also T.J. Hawkinson. So it's certainly some pretty darn good players that are there. A lot of sons: Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. So somebody's going to get sunned this weekend. That was stupid.
It was okay, man. Don't beat yourself up about it.
I'm going to.
There's a bunch of sons and at least one cousin. Actually, there's plural cousins.
There's more cousins out there than you would think. Yeah, but they're all going to be my homies. Damn it. Here's where she writes.
Talk to me a little bit about the Minnesota Vikings defense. When you're studying film, looking at them, are they any different than anything that you've come up against so far this season?
I would say that they're not necessarily too much different than other defenses, but a lot of NFL defense they're really good at trying to disguise what they're actually going to run. So it just kind of forces our offense to use a lot of motions and stuff so that we can get a tell on the defense.
Well, what's just the progression for you individually of learning what defenses are doing in the moment, after the snap, and trying to gauge the way a defense is trying to guard you?
A lot of that for me comes from, honestly, Trav helps me out with that a lot in practice. And then, we get good looks out there. And my first tells are obviously when we motion, if the defensive guys stay with a certain specific player or not, and then the leverage that an outside defender has as far as the cornerback and the safeties. So.
When you say Travis helps you, just mean after a play he might say something to you?
Yeah, right after a play, he'll be he'll give me the courage, good job on that play, but it's always something else that I can add that will help me improve my game on the field when it comes to game day.
Of course, there's a lot of talk about the kind of unspoken chemistry between Patrick and Travis. And Patrick even said, I think earlier this year, it was kind of towards the end of year 2, the 2019 season, that it kind of connected. Do you see it on film? Do you You know, like, does that kind of pop off the screen at you? Or you're like, oh wait, he was supposed to run it this way and broke it off? Like, is that one of the kind of nuances that, you know, is maybe the next step in your career?
Yeah, I mean, as I get the offense down, I'm pretty sure that'll come in my game. Right now, I'm just trying to do exactly what I'm supposed to do. I think Trav's really good at doing that because he's been in the offense for so long. And him and Pat are on that same type of page just because Pat knows exactly what he wants. And basically, Travis thinking the same thing Pat's thinking. So he knows where Pat, you know, wants him to be on a specific play. So sometimes he has the leverage to, you know, do what he has to do just to get open.
So you mentioned get the offense down. A lot of young players say that they can't, of course, play free because they're thinking, okay, well, I got to line up, what the check is, all that. Do you feel that way?
Not necessarily. As far as when I say I get the offense down, I feel like I have the offense down. It's just that when you got vets around you that's been doing it for so long, there's always something that you can constantly key in on and just make your game better as far as, you know, any play or as far as reading the defense.
There's a phrase in sports, be quick but don't hurry, right? Like you want to play as fast as you can but not be out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Is that maybe something you're battling right now? I mean, guys talk about the speed of the game goes up when you come to this level, and there's kind of that balance you got to find with hurrying versus being as quick as you can be.
I think, me personally, I wanted to have an impact in the offense as soon as I could. So during the preseason, I kind of, honestly, in practice, we kind of started that fast pace. So during the preseason, it just kind of got me ready, got my nerves out the way, got me out of the way of being in a rush instead of just being calm and playing fast. So when the regular season got here, I was just ready for my moment.
How do you feel your rapport is with Patrick? I mean, are you not rapport and getting along or anything, but do you have that second insight of where you need to be, especially when he's in trouble? And, you know, have you gotten to that level yet with him where you don't need to say anything, the feel is there?
Honestly, I think a lot of us are at that level. It's just we have a great quarterback that can get out of the pocket, and he can always do something amazing when the ball's in his hands. So if you're available and you're in his eyesight, all you got to do is watch the ball in and make the play.
You mentioned you have the playbook down as far as, you know, knowing all the positions. Just when it comes to the intricacies, where are you think in that part of it?
I feel like every day I'm learning, but at the same time, when it comes to me having to know a specific play or know the playbook for the week, I won't have any doubt in my game.
Last one here.
What do you feel like you need to work on with route running, getting out of breaks, to make you more comfortable in the offense and more of a contributor?
I feel like I can work on watching the ball in. I can work on my game every day. Every time we're in practice, we're working on our game. So we're never to the point where we feel like we're completed. We just want to keep working and getting better.
Thanks, Rasheed. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Rasheed.
All right, there's Rashee Rice, the wide receiver for the Chiefs. We heard Mike Edwards, Patrick Mahomes, and Andy Reid. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. McShafer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We will get our final tally for the Royals ZOUs in the 1 o'clock hour as well. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Tuesday is going to be Thursday, and then Thursday is going to be
Good
Sunday.
point.
So, I mean, there's a lot going on next week.
Great point. All right, let's talk about what we heard from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Mike Edwards and Rashee Rice. We'll start with you, Josh. Anything stick out? I've had about 5 or 6 different stars notes that were there, but anything for you?
There's a lot of stuff. I gave you the tease right as we were taking our break that I got a tinfoil take. It's the debut of a new type of take for me.
Tinfoil take?
It's a tinfoil take. Has nothing to do with the emergency alert system. It'll test in about an hour. But there's so much about the receivers. We talked a ton about the receivers. Doesn't look like they're getting open at great rates, but also Mahomes didn't have a great game, and it wasn't all the receivers' fault. It wasn't all bad against the against the Jets. But Reed took a lot of receiver questions. We obviously heard from Rashee Rice. But when Mahomes was asked first about Sky Moore, first about Rashee Rice, and then after that asked about Sky Moore, I'm paraphrasing now here with how he started that follow-up, but it was Rashee Rice, talk about him growing in the offense, getting more comfortable, got to go through all that. Okay, so what have you seen from Sky Moore? Yeah, same thing, a lot of young guys. Well, Sky Moore's been in this system for a full year extra than Rashee Rice has. And he got real reps last year, too. My little, tinfoil take is that Sky Moore and Rashee Rice are really, really close in terms of their development. And look, it doesn't mean that Sky Moore won't be step for step from here on out. Maybe Sky Moore just needed an extra year and Rashee Rice just didn't for whatever reason. But I do think that that little tidbit for me is maybe the first time I've become willing, such a small little detail, but it might be the first time I've become willing to wonder if Sky Moore drops in the pecking order as this season goes on, and that Rashee Rice has a real chance to actually pass him straight up.
And I think we're seeing that. I think he does. I think Rashee Rice is the guy that as the season goes on, it's Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice are the guys that, and then you supplement with different guys in different places, whether that be MVS down the field or Justin Watson in different places or Sky Moore doing some of those things. But, when does Rashee Rice run the route on third down that Sky Moore was relied upon to run on third down, in which he was not in the spot Mahomes wanted him to be in? You rounded that route. It needs to be crisper, cleaner, a harder cut to the outside there at the first down marker. You cut, but then you started to fade, and when I threw you the ball, you had to dive down low to try to get it, so it was kind of at your feet. If you were where I needed you to be, that would be at your waist. You catch it, go out of bounds. Is Sky Moore that guy the rest of the year? Or if there's trust and other things, does Rashee Rice start to fill that role? And Rashee Rice goes and cuts and makes that, catches the ball, takes 2 steps, gets 2 feet in, out of bounds, first down, move the chains. Because there's also some of the, all right, it's 2nd down and 3, boom, quick little pop pass to Rashee Rice drop. All right, well, that's got to get better. But the reason it gives me more hope for Rashee Rice than Sky Moore, just by saying, well, they're both second-round draft picks, so the development's going to be the same. Rice so far this year, in 4 games, has 13 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown on 19 targets. It almost perfectly aligns. Sky Moore had 20 targets, 12 receptions, 169 yards, and no touchdowns through week 10 last year. So you thought, oh, wow, the first one, I don't remember that. No, you don't, because it didn't happen. Yeah. It was after week 10 that Sky Moore had on the season 20 targets, 12 receptions, 169 yards. And after week 4, Rashee Rice has 19 targets, 13 receptions, 140 yards, and a touchdown. It's not the same. It's not the same beginning. It's not the same from what how they're being used, and really the amount of times that Patrick Mahomes is going to him. Part of that is Juju Smith-Schuster was a guy that Patrick Mahomes was throwing to and targeting a lot in the first few weeks of the season last year. It was Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster. They also had MVS and McCole and things like that, so maybe Sky Moore was down the pecking order a little bit. But without Juju and McCole, it allows Sky to then fill that role as the guy who's been around for a year in the offense and has a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
It almost forces him to, as much as it allows him to.
But he has not.
Yeah.
He has not done that this year. And that's an issue for him because he has 7 receptions for 112 yards. He's got 6 fewer catches than Rashee Rice does so far this year. I mean, he's also got 4 fewer targets. So, I mean, Mahomes is even targeting him less than Rashee Rice, the rookie, that it's going to take some, because remember, Rashee Rice was learning how to get out of a huddle. Rashee Rice had to learn how to huddle and then break from the huddle to go to your spot, as opposed to just running your route and then running back to the line of scrimmage on that same side because, they're just calling the play through hand signals. That was the development he even had to make. And he's getting more looks. He's getting more love from the offense and Patrick Mahomes.
And with all of those stats, it all needs to be linked to the fact that Sky Moore, tied with MVS actually, leads Chiefs receivers in snap count. Sky Moore and MVS both have 175 snaps. And even talking about MVS from a production standpoint also, that's another fair conversation.
Absolutely.
We just know what's going on there.
But he is who he is.
He is who he is. That's exactly right.
I mean, he's going to be that for the rest of his career.
There's a little bit of wiggle room up and down, or maybe if he loses his step, he loses his best trait.
Yeah.
And you have the Bengals game that's an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
So there's wiggle room. No player is completely pigeonholed, but MVS is pretty much the back of his card, which is a useful player. But Sky Moore is still unknown in that way that is exciting. But if that continues on this track through this season, next year he's going to be unknown in a way that is frustrating. And I don't think it's doomed to get there, but it's a really interesting little point to be in after week 4.
Well, and this is what, even to the part of consistency. So Sky Moore, a guy who was viewed as, the route runner, can gain separation, is not going to drop the ball.
Yep.
So there should be a more consistent feel to what he brings to the table, where Rice may have some drop problems. Route running could be something he needs to learn. He was really good in finding space and zone, but also breaking the huddle and running out to a spot and all the motions in the offense. There's going to be some real inconsistencies from Rashee Rice's game. Okay. So 4 games for both of them. Sky Moore's game log: 0 receptions, 0 yards. 3 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown. 4 receptions, 42 yards. 0 receptions, 0 yards. Rashee Rice: 3 receptions, 29 yards and a touchdown. 2 receptions, 20 yards. 5 receptions, 59 yards, and 3 receptions, 32 yards. Who's the up and down guy?
Yeah, great point.
Who's the... It's kind of what you're getting from this guy week in, week out, and there's more there, versus a no-show twice.
Yeah.
Just sort of a generic game, and then a game in which he had the 54-yard catch from Mahomes against the Jags on that scramble on 3rd down that he got open and caught the ball and, picks up 54 yards of his 70 on one play. The more consistent guy has been week in, week out. The fewest receptions in a game for Rashee Rice so far is 20, or is 2, I should say, 2. And the fewest yards is 20. That was one game against Jacksonville. He's gone more in receptions and yards in the other 3 games. And he hasn't been shut out yet of a game.
And in week 1 and 4, Sky Moore took a total of 86 offensive snaps in those 2 games where he had 0 catches. I can't wait for eventually us to have the sample size when we can really look at Sky Moore individually and say, okay, is he getting open? Is he losing in zone? Is he just not beating his man? Is he getting open and Mahomes isn't trusting him? The cause here is still a little bit, I think it's still being diagnosed as we do this. But the symptom is that a guy who was largely from the team, largely kind of pumped up as this team's number 1 wide receiver this offseason, twice this year he's been completely shut out, and the other times this year it has not been standout. It's not like it's been 2 shutouts in 2 huge games and he's just a boom or bust guy. It's just been kind of a bust through these 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Not that he, as a player, is in bust territory already, but something hasn't settled yet. Something's not on the same page, and that's sort of frustrating for the start of year 2.
And we see this a lot with guys that are one draft class to the next, just separated by one draft class, like who's older, who's younger, right? I mean, Sky Moore, this is second year in the NFL, but Rashee Rice is 6 months older than Sky Moore, in human years, not, NFL wide receiver and dog years. I mean, Rashee Rice is 6 months older than Sky Moore, so he is older in terms of that standpoint, but Sky Moore has been in this Chiefs offense for a year and a half. And Rashee Rice has been in the Chiefs offense for what feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that to me is where we can compare the two and talk about them versus each other, or look at them as what was missing from Sky Moore is actually offering some optimism for Rashee Rice. That, okay, well, this wasn't happening with Sky Moore. He was a second-round draft pick. Well, you were hoping to see this and this. Okay, well, so what level of progression can you expect for him to take from year 1 to year 2? Well, this is only 4 weeks into Rashee Rice's career. And there are some times where they're just simply throwing him the ball. And late in that game when, the Chiefs, I don't even remember what the down and distance was, but it was a quick 5-yard pass to Rashee Rice, turning it upfield. He made it 18 yards. Caught a 5-yard hitch and turned it into 18 yards. One thing I asked Adam Teicher yesterday that I certainly would love some truth serum or a candid moment with Andy Reid and the Chiefs offense, in that they like the ball in Sky Moore's hands. We know that because they handed him the ball twice.
Yep.
They like the ball in his hands. They've handed it to him twice. Why is it that all of these routes he's running and all the times that Mahomes is throwing the ball, why isn't he getting the ball in his hands that way? If you like him with the ball in his hands and you like how he's sort of creating, then why can't that happen with him running a route? You're manufacturing touches for him. And the old-fashioned way for a wide receiver to get touches is to be open and get the ball. Now, Mahomes also talked about how poorly he played in this game. Said he played poorly, didn't play well, and he hasn't played well to start the season. And when he starts playing better, everyone else, their production will be better. And he said there were 2 throws he'd like to have back, but he said there are also other, missed some other opportunities. Missed some other, not necessarily missed open receivers, but missed opportunities to where I should have, if I'm looking over there, that guy's open.
And that is true through the first 4 games. There have been a few examples of that. There are also examples of that, from his MVP campaigns. So
yeah, right.
I would love, I'm not expecting it, but I would love for one of these receivers to, in their performance, make it impossible for Patrick Mahomes not to hone in on them. And that to me still feels like that could be where Rashee Rice is headed. I'd love to see it from Sky Moore. It's need to see more, no pun intended.
It's more likely than not that throughout the game there's going to be 5 or 6 times you're like, oh my God, that guy was open and I just missed him.
Yes, it just happens. It's really hard to see the entire football field.
The one game that I can think back to and think of, like, Mahomes just simply was on a different planet, out of his mind, and if there was an open guy, he immediately saw it and delivered it on time, was that Bills divisional round game against Buffalo. He was so incredibly brilliant in that game, just quarterbacking at another extreme. I'm going to take the shot when it's there, hit the guy, throw it underneath when it's there. Like, he was just in control of the whole game against the number 1 defense in the NFL in that Bills game. And then against the Bengals, the first half, he didn't need to be because that defense, was good. Lou Winter was good, but that was what we thought was an outclassed Bengals team in talent. Because going into that game, it's like, this game ain't going to be close. This is going to be a boring game. And when the Chiefs got up the way that they did, nationally, you saw some tweets that were, eventually old takes exposed of, see, I knew there was going to be a boring game. Bengals had no chance. This team sucks. And then the second half, he just lost it all. The Monstars came and, grabbed him at halftime and then took his talent to wherever. But that Bills game was just brilliance at its finest. Just open man, there it goes. Open man, there it is. Open man over there, boom. You got to move up in the pocket, I'm doing it. Got to run, I'm going to go and do it. He just controlled every aspect of that. We haven't seen that Patrick Mahomes this year. But it's also asking a lot to see somebody play perfect football every single night. That's what makes him special, is that he had to play perfect football when they were trailing by 10 points to the 49ers in the 4th quarter, and then he did. Yeah. He had to play perfect football in the second half against the Eagles, and he did. He had to play perfect football against the Bills the entire freaking game in the divisional round, and he did. He just had to play don't tear it down football in the second half against the Bengals, and something happened. Yep. He didn't have to play perfect football against the Bengals. And I wonder if the first halves were flipped, if they went into halftime down 10 to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, does he come out and go, Patrick Mahomes, and I've got to be locked in and play perfect football? When he's had to do that, he has done that for a good portion of his career. Against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, they fall behind and don't score any points, and he's got to play perfect football. And he plays brilliant football against the Patriots there in the playoffs. He hasn't had to play, you can't make a mistake, you got to go play perfect football, Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't had to do that yet.
the game they lost, he was putting the football in the hands of wide receivers.
Yeah,
So
they were dropping the ball.
the one if you're gonna go, okay, but didn't he need to go that mode against Detroit? He did pretty much all he could do there.
But he also proved that he cannot literally do it by himself.
Cannot literally throws the ball and catch the ball at the same time.
Giselle will tell you, you cannot throw the ball, you cannot catch the ball, and I don't think that is even the way she sounds.
Yeah, I don't know why I always go. I don't know.
Why did you go that route?
I have no idea. I just always that's always the impression
Good
for
eye,
me.
mate. He can't throw the ball to you.
It's pretty good, actually. I kind of like that.
I don't think that's what she sounds like either. It's weird. I'm not
Can't
sure.
throw the ball and catch the ball down under. What? Why is that? What is that impression?
You can't throw the ball and catch it, I say. Why does why does she sound like?
This is crazy. Tom Brady was married to Frank Caliendo.
Catch the ball, I say. Catch the ball, Os. Why is Giselle talking? That's not even what she. You're not from there. Why did you make her that accent, Josh?
I have no idea. I don't know. I've always, for
That's
whatever
fine.
reason, I think my actual point of reference for that, I don't know the last time I've heard the actual audio, but I definitely heard probably the Lebitard crew doing that impression for a long time.
Yeah.
And it all, for whatever reason, the thes turned into z's, and I don't know
Z.
why. It cannot throw the ball and catch the ball at the same time. It
the
feels
ball.
like the right tone to take. I don't know. I have no information on Giselle Bündchen's Ancestry.com sort of profile.
You can't
I
throw
have
it
no
too,
idea.
You can't catch it too, eh?
I have absolutely no idea. It's just what I
Right.
chose to do because I thought that would be the funniest way to say it.
from the Royals. Final tally from the Royals also not great.
They went under.
The whole damn team went under?
Well, I think the franchise in some ways went under.
They folded. I don't think that's the case. But
Stadium
we'll find out.
plans maybe went under.
No, it's past September. They figured that out, right?
They've gone over on their own lines for the stadium.
How did you go past your own deadline? You said it.
Well, that's pretty rich coming from the zone.
What does that mean?
It means that we're always late, Jason.
Oh.
It means we take late commercial breaks because we talk too much.
No, I'm never late talking. I just
Jason, it's over. The segment's over, Jason.
Sorry.
The segment's over.
Yeah.
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, and also Mick Schaefer here for the hour from KSHB 41. He's the sports director, and he joins us here. Mick, how are you?
Good, fellas. How are you? I'm actually,
Great.
I can't remember the last time I was this happy.
Really? Why? What's going on?
Well, I had issues with my basement televisions with YouTube TV forever.
Really?
Forever. And I couldn't figure it out, so I dedicated this entire morning to figuring out my issues, because we would hit we'd have 3 TVs on in the house, and it would say you've hit your streaming limit.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to do 3.
Do you need me to log out?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So I finally bought the unlimited.
Yeah, you get the unlimited.
Unlimited, $10 more a
Yeah.
month, it's 4K.
Yeah.
Same thing was happening.
No way.
And I'm like, so I just chalked it up to
You're
a
an idiot?
glitch. I'm an idiot. I don't talk tech. And maybe my son is at college handing out all the credentials for the entire SIGUP fraternity. And
that's the
so
issue.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I got everything together. And so I wanted to get all the knowledge. I want to get a knowledge base and write stuff down, how the whole system was set up, because I had my buddy do it and all that. I was calling and I was blaming him. He's like, it's not my fault, bud. It's the same network. And so in the process of doing that, I stumbled upon something that I believe YouTube doesn't make very apparent, that they don't tell you that you should do. We had not set up YouTube TV to a home network. It said not connected to any network whatsoever for 4+ years, apparently. And I went, and you have to go to your whoever is the primary account holder, go to their account, go to settings, go to streaming limit, and then go down there and set as home network. And so I finally did. And then I turned every TV in the house on. I turned them to different channels on YouTube TV, and I just waited. And I would run all over the place to make sure I wasn't hitting straight. And after 20 minutes, they're all still gone. I'm like, oh my! I'm so thrilled. I took pictures. I sent to my family, and I was like, this is. I know
your dad's a genius.
Your dad did it.
This I'm supposed to say, when I married one of you and when we had 3 of you, as the happiest days of my life. This might be it, though. This might trump that. This is what I'm going to say first. So we have unlimited YouTube TV streaming now in the house.
That's a big deal.
I feel like it was an easy fix. I didn't have to call anybody, but I feel like YouTube TV needs to make that more apparent.
Just in case no one said this to you, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Also, in case nobody said this to you either, I didn't have that problem. Right when I signed up,
You've got it set up.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago is when we switched over to YouTube TV, and we've had like 30 streams on at the same time at once.
No, you haven't.
So, well, actually, during football games on Saturday, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going.
6 TVs?
Yeah. Well, 6 streams. So I've got the 3 TVs, my iPad, my son's watching football on his iPad, and then my wife, I guess she wants to watch TV too sometimes.
Yeah.
Loser. So then that would be the other one that's on YouTube TV. So there's, on like a Saturday afternoon, there could be 6 streams going at once.
Well,
we don't cross stream.
I've never had that. And now I do. And
awesome.
I
Good
can't,
for
because
you,
we've
man.
had
So
to
proud of you.
supplement it with ESPN apps and those games.
That makes sense.
To make sure we can see all the games we want, and it's just a big kind of awkward hurdle, and so now we don't have to do it.
Well, that's like when I was looking to switch over to YouTube TV, I was like, hold on. There's not unlimited streams. I can only have 3. Yeah, that's not going to work. I'm not going to it's a non-starter. Like, but you can pay extra for unlimited streams. Oh, well, I'm back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why didn't you say that at the beginning, you jackass? Come on, just tell me
we've
that.
never had 3. We've always got to like the third, and is trying to kick somebody off, and I always blamed it on just somebody has mine out there and is using it. And so now I texted my son at school. I'm like, you should be fine.
Now
Anytime you want to watch, you should be fine.
Now you can restart your business. You can restart your business. You can charge people $10 a month for our password.
You can actually
Good.
You can actually change your home network 3 times a month to 3 different areas. So
Really?
if you're back in Louisville for a week, you can sign in there and say their Wi-Fi is your home network.
We don't have it, so.
And
the internet thing is going to be an issue.
They don't have Wi-Fi? They don't have Wi-Fi.
not. Do you think I'm joking? But
I do.
We've talked about this before. I think that when I go back there, I have to use my hotspot on my phone. I have to if I want to watch anything on my iPad, I have to download like TV shows before I go.
Well,
there.
you could technically make that hotspot your home network did.
There we go. Done. Everybody, YouTube TV on us the whole week.
Sorry, we don't have TVs either, Jason.
But you guys hop on the family brontosaurus. You go down to Louisville.
Well, I believe it's not like they don't want to. It's just where they live in the area they live. They're trying to, screw them to charge them. Like, well, we can come out there and install it, but for 40 megabytes a second, it's probably going to cost you $200 a month. Like, for 40. $200 for 40. Well, I mean, you'd have to get the cable and the line. Well, you could also get the satellite. They now have the satellite thing where we can send the satellite down to you, and we can get you up to like 50 or 60, but that's going to cost you about $300 a month. Yeah, no, not worth it. I'm not paying $300.
They're out in the country then.
A little bit, yeah. Not as far out in the country where you would think that it would be that big of an issue.
Yeah, because my parents live in a very rural area, and they got everything.
Yeah, it's just that particular area for some reason that they are just, what are you going to do? It clearly doesn't affect them.
Have they been like
my
really
father-in-law's
mean?
like, I'll just do it through my.
They've been very rude to people who've come over before. Like, oh, it's the we got to triple the offer. We just can't get out there. Have you been around for any of these? Have you made any of these phone calls? Have you been there? Have you had the first person experience?
The amount of time I've spent talking with my mother-in-law about internet issues has been a lot.
Okay,
It's been a lot.
all right.
My father-in-law
all right.
doesn't care. He's like, internet? Who cares?
Who
Don't need
cares?
it.
Yeah.
Is it? Do I need internet on the tractor? No. All right, then get the hell out of my face.
Okay.
I got work to do here. But mother-in-law's like, I got to watch TV. I got to watch my shows. I got to do this. I got to download that.
Do they have satellite
They've
or
got
cable
DirecTV.
TV?
We got DirecTV. That's it. So, you can get internet through DirecTV. Yeah, it doesn't work. All right, I know that's not working there. So, yeah. But anyway, that's awesome for you. I
How
feel
many
good for you.
quad boxes do they have? How many quad box channels do they have on YouTube TV right now? It's at least three, right?
Gripe. I have a multi-view gripe.
Well, I've got a.
You want to set your own, don't you?
You tried to. You
can set your own.
You led me down the right
can't.
path, but there are a ton of options. But I could not get Mizzou and KU on the same multi-box. They kicked off at different times and all of that.
That makes
so
sense.
I
Okay.
think they are
There is,
restricted.
yeah.
There are a ton of options for each time window. But I had I can't remember.
But
what
they
the
give you
game
the
was.
options, right?
So-
You can't a la carte your 4 games, can you?
It sort of depends. Like if it's Sunday ticket, say for instance, like at a noon kickoff.
And I haven't used it for NFL.
So like a noon kickoff, if like in your home screen, it would be like, here's the multi-view games that you can click on. If you click on one individual game and then you press down and click multi-view, on the right, a bar will open and it will give you you can just click through each different individual multi-view, 4 quad box with the game that you want, with just 3 different mixtures of games with it. So you can just go down. Those are the 3 games with that? No. Those are the 3 games with that? Nah. Those are the 3 games with that?
So that's just NFL Sunday ticket thing?
I've been able to do it with Sunday ticket and with college, but it depends on the college game. Not every time is it here's every single college game that we have that we're just going to mix and match these 3 for you to figure out which 3 you like. Because you're right, there are times where I'm like, well, why isn't this game even available on multi-view?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to just have the quad box be there and just a little plus sign. I can just go over, click that, and okay, I want this because you could maybe this is the thing they're protecting against. I don't know. You could do that with just 4 different channels if you wanted.
Really?
If you want to watch, a little Food Network,
absolutely,
and then flip over the other one when you're on commercial break, so you can hear the house flipping show or whatever. That might make sense.
Then you're flipping channels, which this is a great conversation for everybody that actually has that YouTube TV. But I am proud of you, Mick.
Thank you.
You did great.
Now joined the rest of the world. So welcome.
Now I'm gonna work on changing my avatar on it to
good for you.
Mickey
Not just
Mouse.
the M.
Yeah.
It's Mickey Mouse operation going on. That's what I'm going to change the avatar to. That's ridiculous. If you have not heard some of the news around the NFL today, there are a couple of things that have happened. J.C. Jackson is now a New England Patriot again. He was traded from the Chargers to the Patriots with a 7th rounder.
How much
And the
did he even
Patriots
play for the Chargers?
minimal last year and almost nothing this year, and was a healthy scratch. And so that 5 years, $82.5 million contract he signed last offseason doesn't look great. He will play for $1.5 million for the Patriots this year. So all they're on the hook for is giving up a 6th rounder. They're getting J.C. Jackson and a 7th rounder, and they're paying him $1.5 million because the Chargers are picking up the rest of the tab just to frickin' get rid of him. And the Broncos have released Randy Gregory, who they signed last year for 5 years, $70 million in the offseason. And this comes a week after the Raiders released Chandler Jones last week, who they signed last offseason for 3 years, $50 million, all in an effort to combat the Chiefs. And all three of those teams in the West have now lost one of their big prize moves last offseason, while the Chiefs' last year's offseason move was to trade Tyreek Hill and then draft Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, a cornerback and a defensive end. Seems like they're on the right path. If they keep it up, they might be good.
Cheaper move, too.
Yeah, if they keep it up, they might be good. I don't know. We'll see. The jury's still out on whether or not going and signing J.C. Jackson. What if your offseason was signing J.C. Jackson, Randy Gregory, and Chandler Jones? It's just completely changing our whole defense. We got 2 edge rushers and a cornerback. We are back!
I love how Trent McDuffie, number 1 in PFF as a corner.
At least through last
Did he get mentioned Sunday night? Maybe once?
I don't know if he got targeted Sunday night, to be honest.
He
did once because he
Sauce
had one
Gardner
bad
got
play.
mentioned a lot.
True.
Yeah, he had the play
And I don't
where
see
it was
him in the-
Lazard down the sideline.
Yep.
I was shocked because Chris Collinsworth and his work with Pro Football Focus and being, one of the people that gets some money from Pro Football Focus being, one of the guys that starts it. I was really surprised that he was talking about Trent McDuffie, and he said, a lot of people won't realize how good this player is, but he is a really, really good player. And it said there, coverage said number 1, Pro Football, and Collinsworth didn't say a word about it. Yeah. I thought for sure he'd be like, this is the number 1 cover corner at PFF is Trent McDuffie. Even though Sauce Gardner's in the game, this is what Trent McDuffie's been doing. The same draft class with Sauce Gardner. That was one of the more surprising things is that what Collinsworth didn't say, even more so than what Collinsworth did say when the Lions game was taking place on Jawan Taylor.
And I don't have full access to it. Again, this is on my to-do list after the YouTube TV thing.
Yeah, you'll get there.
I'll get there. But Sauce Gardner's not even like top 20 PFF. Where's he at? His position. I couldn't find him.
I'll look.
Yeah,
I'll try to find it. But
I feel like he's one of those guys that gets a lot of pub for playing in New York.
Well, he was
and
awesome
he was a high
last year.
draft pick.
He was awesome last year, and through just overall Pro Football Focus grades from last year and so far this year, just the players drafted at the cornerback spot last year, it's Sauce Gardner and then Trent McDuffie. Like it's 1-2. Sauce has been good. I do love the fact that I got a kick out of this. I put it on Twitter on Monday night. I think it was Monday night. Going through and watching the All-22, the Noah Gray touchdown, especially after hearing on Sunday night, Sauce Gardner complaining about the holding call and saying they didn't even throw my way all day. They didn't throw my way all night. And then you go back and watch the Noah Gray play and sort of describe it. Sauce Gardner has Travis Kelce. It's at the top side of the screen. Sauce Gardner has Travis Kelce. Whitehead has Noah Gray. So they both run routes. Travis Kelce looks like he's starting to run a slant. Sauce Gardner cuts the slant, just overreacts, cheating. I'm going to beat him to the ball. I'm going to intercept it. Kelce actually runs a whip route and stops the slant and goes outside. Noah Gray goes past Travis Kelce towards the deep, corner route, which is where he caught the ball. Whitehead is on Noah Gray
but sees
Kelce uncovered and starts to then break off his sort of coverage to go over to Kelce. The ball's thrown over his head, touchdown. Whitehead chases from behind. Noah Gray crosses the line, turns around and looks at Sauce Gardner and looks at him like, dude, what the hell? So either Sauce Gardner had Travis Kelce and just got toasted, or Sauce Gardner was supposed to be the deep handoff to Gray if one ran short and then Gray went long, but Sauce was trying to cheat and get the interception. That Noah Gray touchdown was because of Sauce Gardner, but he wasn't the nearest defender on the play. Whitehead was the nearest defender on the play. So Whitehead is counted as someone who scored a touchdown on Whitehead, the nearest defender, not Sauce Gardner. But I'm telling you, watch the All-22. That touchdown was because number 1 thought he was going to intercept the ball and cheat and beat Travis Kelce to the mark, and Kelce ran a whip route and just torched him.
And Whitehead, I'm surprised, wasn't more enamored with putting the crown of his helmet into somebody at that point. Because that was about every play for a stretch of about 5 straight plays. He was just unloading on people and no flags.
You were not wrong about that.
Were thrown.
And then you had one touchdown for the Jets where, speaking of helmets, that Justin Reed got beat on the touchdown because he stepped in Mike Dana's helmet.
Yes.
Which fell off his head by natural causes. Yes.
There was a gust of wind.
Yes.
Mike Dana is so explosive coming out of his stance up that when he tried to dip his shoulder, the helmet just slides right off his head. That's how explosive he is, that by nobody else touching it or doing anything, the helmet just fell off and went backwards. to where Justin Reed then steps on it and trips to then have a touchdown. I mean, if there is a more impactful non-call, I'd like to see it. Like, it's not only just when they scored a touchdown and there should have been a flag, yes, but they scored a touchdown because the flag that should have been called resulted in a helmet being stepped on by a guy who was supposed to cover that guy, and he didn't do it because his foot was in the guy's face mask.
What you're so right about all of that, Jason.
Thank you. All right, we take a break. We'll come back.
What quarter of the game was that in?
Would have been second at least.
So right.
Second quarter.
Second, play. Come on, swallow the whistle.
You're right.
Yeah, second quarter. Sorry, something happened in the second quarter impacted
those
the game.
Don't matter. Those don't impact
Something
the
in
game.
the second quarter impacted the game. Listen to this guy.
Logical argument with somebody on
Clown.
Twitter, which is my favorite because a lot of times there's a lack thereof. And somebody was talking about how, that play was so late, and that's why you got to call. Then those flags earlier in the game don't really matter nearly as much. And then later on in sort of the back and forth.
Oh, it's the test, everybody. It's test time.
So do we even need to talk since it's going out over the air?
The podcast will just have that really unfortunate interruption. And
but on the air,
I don't know.
It will not.
Dylan.
What happened?
Where's that coming from?
I'm listening to my phone now to see what it sounds like.
I don't think the app. I don't know if the app will interrupt it or not. I looked over at Dylan to see how he was reacting to this and to see. Dylan, is the little thingy over there lighting up or stuff coming out of the speaker? I don't know.
Anything? Nothing?
We might still be live. And Drake also said 120, and I got it just at 118 right now. So I don't know. They ripped it early, but I looked over at Dylan, and he just had his arm sticking out like a zombie, and that was Dylan. A tremendous visual bit in an audio medium.
If that's going on or not. So,
Nick, your brains are looking pretty tasty right now.
Oh. That's So we heard it, but it's also still talking. So on the app, at least there. But no, did you see this issue about the 5G going on today?
Yes, I saw somebody tweet about it, and then I just moved on with my day.
Yeah. So Gina.
God, I wish we had that power.
Yeah.
Gina Shira on Twitter.
Should I know this person?
She's wearing a lab coat, so she's official in her picture. So I don't have a lab coat in my picture because I'm not a doctor.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah, because
Mr. Pfizer.
Yeah, because I've been to American Girl Doll.
Right now, Dylan's doing two things at once: producing a radio show and eating brains.
Says turn off your cell phones on October 4th. The EBS is going to test the system using 5G. This will activate the Marburg virus in people who have been vaccinated and sadly turn some of them into zombies. So, and she's got a lab coat, so I mean,
probably knows. Yeah.
It's legit.
I feel like
probably right.
It's probably well researched.
Is the Marburg virus a thing?
Well,
it looks like it's a real thing, completely unrelated to this thing. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Tex says, I am proud of you too, Mick. I also strive to be the husband and father you are. See?
Is that in reference to the YouTube TV thing?
Probably.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that was just in general. Maybe.
Yeah, it might just be a little check-in on Mick.
She wants to be the husband and father that I am.
She would not say that she is proud of you.
She would have texted in and said, I want my husband to be the husband and father you claim to be.
One day.
A real man would have figured this out like a week after we got YouTube TV in 2018.
Absolutely
it's been
right.
4 years. You've had a presidential term to figure out how to set a home network. Whoop-de-doo.
Well, there's a lot less done in a presidential term, let's be honest. If a home network is figured out in a presidential term, it might be the most that gets done. Well done. Look at you. You can be president. There is an EAS test going on the TV right now.
All right, so I mean, people are making sure that these systems. We had the tornadoes earlier as well.
It was first Wednesday of the month
locally. So I mean, today has just been a high alert type of day.
Over in Shawnee, the tornado siren goes off every day at 11, I believe, something like that.
Every day?
It can't be every day, can it?
Once a week, something like that.
Really? Okay.
Tex says,
in Caldwell, Kansas, they have a noon whistle. The tornado siren goes off every day at noon.
Really?
Yep.
Was it like Tornado Alley or something?
No, I guess just to test it on a regular basis and let you know, hey, it's noon.
What happens if a noon comes around? There's no whistle. Should I assume there is a tornado?
That's the actual tornado warning. You don't hear anything.
Yeah, I feel like we're
Sounded
starting
like a freight
to.
train.
The biggest deal is if it's dark and you hear the noon whistle, don't assume it's noon. Assume it's a tornado.
Sure.
Okay. Don't. It must be lunch break.
There are trees.
It's 8:30.
There are trees flying. It's noon. Oh, there's the noon whistle. All right. I guess it's noon now.
Tornadoes can happen anytime. It makes it dark then at noon. It's still the rule applies still. If it's dark out and you hear tornado stuff, just assume it's not time for lunch.
Time for lunch.
Just imagine it. Go ahead and assume it's time to find a basement.
Text says, "Oh no, it's the zombie noise."
I
going
don't
on
feel
right
any
now?
different yet, but I was kind of hoping. Figured again. Jason and Dylan are already sick.
That's
so,
right. So I feel so nauseous. Oh, I feel like I've got a cold. Oh no, this the EAS test made my nose
My
plug
nose
up.
is bleeding.
Oh no, it makes me feel like now I'm coughing because of this EAS test. This is weird.
I mean, it was a little loud, so I mean, it made me a little bit. Maybe
All right.
my ears a little uncomfortable, I guess.
Well, let's take a time out. Let's come back and we will get the final tally for the Royals ZOUs.
Speaking of having no brains,
let's go. Yes. Text says. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up tonight, 6 o'clock, Hawk Talk with Lance Leipold right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And then MLB Wild Card. It gets underway about 40 minutes from now, game number 1 of the 4 games. And then tonight, the featured game on ESPN Radio / right here on Sports Radio 810 will be Marlins and Phillies. But Sterling will be hanging out in studio and bouncing from game to game as needed as they get interesting and / close. But the featured game will be Marlins and Phillies. Some good games yesterday in the opening day of the wild card round. So could see some teams winning series today or extending on into tomorrow. So we'll find out.
So you guys pay attention to the playoffs, the early rounds of the playoffs, even when the Royals aren't in it, which is 99% of the time.
I like them. Yeah, I'll watch. DraftKings.
Too many. I can't keep track.
DraftKings makes it more interesting too. Doing that.
The LCSs, I'll start paying attention.
Okay, cool. That's when
Just let me know who's in them.
So when Escobar and Kane are like, yeah, we agree. We agree, Mick. We only pay attention to the LCSs too.
I didn't watch him, Mick. Make
Thank
you feel
you.
any better. I don't need to.
A normal person.
I thought about
Somebody's
it.
got too many streams going on in there.
Well, see, I was able to do that because I had all these different streams in my house.
Win or go home games, I'm in. I'll come back for that.
I have no excuse now to not be a sports fan.
So I will crack it open today, I guess.
So for the Rays at home was Zach Eflin.
Nope, I got to change that. Final game of the series. So I guess a game 3 is game 3 I'm in for.
So you're only watching you're only watching tomorrow if the Rays, Blue Jays, Brewers, or Marlins win.
I'll watch those.
Okay.
There's nothing like a game 3 in sports,
Nothing.
really.
But
There's nothing like the excitement.
The best 2 words in sports. Game 3.
Because when you're 1-1, it can go either way.
It can go either way, man.
And in the wild card round, it could be in the wild card, the team that has won game 3 has won the series every time. It's won 100% of the time. It's weird. It's crazy how that has happened. All right, so let's get into the ZOUs of the Royals.
How'd we do?
Not well. Not great, Bob. Not great.
How'd the Royals do?
Still want to be don't be the slowest Buffalo.
That's exactly right. Let's start off with the pitching side.
But do be one of the 3 slowest Buffaloes if you're the Royals. Just bottom 3 slow Buffaloes.
That's right. Let's start off with the pitching side. Zach Greinke was our first category, and we had Zach Greinke wins that we set at 2.5.
Yeah,
right.
right.
We set it at 7.5, and it went under because it was only 2. If we set it at 2.5, it still would have gone under. At 2,
you had to rally for that second one,
yeah,
too.
I had the under. Josh Brisco and Mick Schaefer had the over.
Wow, look at us loving the Royals.
Yeah, and Beards had the under. So that's the first one.
It's got to be the only overs we took, right?
I don't ever.
Well, it depends on what the
over.
over.
For the Royals.
Depends on what
Yeah.
the over is.
The only
So, like,
positive one.
The
was-
next one,
Yeah.
Jordan Lyles' ERA was set at 4.
Took that over.
And we all took the over, so that didn't matter. We just wiped that one out. Brady Singer's ERA set at 3.5. He ended up with a 5.5. I took the under, and the rest of yous took the over.
Caught up to you.
Idiots. You guys are so dumb. He's going to have a, 5.5 ERA. Shoot. Scott Barlow saves. We set it at 19.5. Now, we had said that saves with the Royals and if they get traded to a team. So, here's where it gets interesting. Scott Barlow had 13 saves for the Royals.
Don't.
I took the over. You guys took the under. And
Don't.
Scott Barlow had 0 saves for the Padres.
Okay,
Damn
just
it!
making sure. I didn't think they had 7.
0 saves? So he ended up with 13 saves this year, and I took the over. You 3 took.
One ahead of you. Tied with
Me and Nick are arm in arm here.
I think Beards is in front.
Who leads the Royals in starts was the question, and this was just an open-ended one. You could just say whoever. Who leads them in starts on the pitching side?
Beards didn't get this one.
I said Jordan Lyles. Josh, you said Brady Singer. Mick, you said Brady Singer. Beard said Chris Bubich.
Beards fell back to the pack on that one.
It was Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles was the one that.
So you
only,
get
that was the
one
only one that
and-
got a point on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody else got a point.
I really don't know where this is going anymore.
No, I think we're
Team wins for the Royals. We set it at 72.5. We even went above what Vegas was like. Vegas was like 69. Like, that's stupid. Let's go 72.5. Vegas was like, oh, you sure? You want to go the other way when you're going to adjust it? Okay. They ended up with 56. I took the over. Josh, you took the under.
Thank God.
Mick, you took the over. What the hell is your issue there?
What?
You
No
took
way.
the
No,
over.
I didn't.
You
No
took-
way.
you
No,
did
you
take-
wrote that down?
No,
Really?
I promise you, you
I
took
gotta
the over.
see the-
This is the
I gotta
third.
hear the
This is the
clip.
third time we've done the updates, and every single time you're like, "No, I didn't. Why did I take the over?"
I forget too. This is new information.
And Beards took the under. And Beards took the under. So Josh and Beards took the under.
I think I'm safe.
Mick and I went over. We'll come back to the bonus one later on.
Mother.
Because we had a bonus one that we threw in at the end. Bobby Witt. Now this is the offensive side. Bobby Witt combined home runs and stolen bases. We set it 59.5. He ended up with 79. I went over. Josh and Mick went under.
God dang. What is...
Beards went over.
I think Beards is safe.
Home runs for Salvador Perez.
It doesn't work here anymore.
We set it at 28.5. He ended up with 23. I went over because I'm dumb. You three went under.
Okay.
So good for you guys.
We hate Salvi, I guess.
Vinny Pasquantino. Home runs. We set at 24.5.
Yikes.
He ended up with 9. So it's just barely. I had the under. Josh and Mick had the over.
Oh, but we were right, kinda. We were gonna be.
No, he had 9. That's not right.
We were gonna be.
But 9 is not right. It's 24.5. Beards had the under.
All right. Is there any trade I'm going to go try to get for our lunch?
MJ Melendez.
Yeah.
We set his OPS at 750. He rallied to get to 713 because it was not close for a long time. He rallied to get to 713. I had the over.
Did I pass on this one because I hate OPS?
Because I'm dumb.
Okay.
Just abstain.
I don't know what it means, so I'm gonna.
The rest of yous had the under.
Okay, good.
With
I think we're back to
with MJ Melendez. So that means that of the 10 categories that we had, Beards ended up with 9.
Unbelievable.
Bubich is the only one he got wrong, and that was just a pick somebody that leads the Royals in game starts. Bubich.
He got an A.
He went under on Greinke, over on Lyles, over on Singer, under on Barlow, under on Wins, over on Witt, under on Salvi, under on Pasquantino, under on Melendez.
By proxy, that's basically Dylan now, right?
Exactly. That's
why
we told Dylan you're going to have to actually
punching the applause button.
For good or bad, that was mine.
He inherited debts, just like when somebody dies. Yes. So he inherited Beard's debt. So Beards won with 9.
I'm gonna try to get a comment from the man himself before 2:00.
Coming in second with 6 points, Josh Brisco.
Yeah, I know. Woo! My math has us tied.
And coming in last / third and fourth, tied.
I have like 4 points.
Jason and Mick with 5. But
the bonus question.
There was a bonus question.
No.
This feels like this is gonna screw Mick. I don't know why.
He's preying on me not remembering anything. I don't remember anything.
Will there be a long-term deal signed by the Royals this year? Yes or no? You got an extra bonus if they did and you got the player right.
I said no, right?
I said yes, Vinny. You said yes, Vinny. Beard said yes, Bobby Witt. Mick said no. He gets 6 points, and I finished dead last at 5.
That's exactly how I remember it, and I'm really proud of myself for
5 to 6
forecast this season
to 6 to 9. Beards destroyed us in that one, and that damn bonus question that we threw in there at the end. It cost me at least half of what I would have paid for lunch. I know it literally cost me money.
Official statement here from the desk of Beards McFly. It is just the Gerard Dyson vroom vroom gif. And then he says, I will be in on Friday to pick up my free lunch. So,
nice. We're doing it Friday?
Whenever we got to decide on a
Friday.
date that we have collectively decided. So let me check my finances. Oh, geez.
What day do you pay?
When's this? Contracts is up then. Jules goes to kindergarten next year. So
Still saving
I'm
for
looking
college.
at like November of 24. You
know
guys good
what?
with that? Beard, you good with November 24?
Do you know what you could do, Jason?
What?
We gotta decide here if this is reasonable or not.
If it saves me money, it's reasonable.
You could just dip into the Guaranteed Foods reservoir.
I mean, I could.
And fully whip that up for us. If you want to make food and bring it in.
Listen, I'll eat whatever. You don't have to pay for it, or it could be sponsored.
I know Guaranteed
whatever.
Foods is excellent. And I feel like you actually see that this is where Guaranteed Foods gets in the way. The idea of you having to go through a long, laborious cooking morning to bring hot food in with you for the show, that's funny.
See, and the great part about it is like,
but it's not laborious.
But it also, it's like half the time is us figuring out what we want to actually get to eat that we have to decide on. With Guaranteed Foods, we don't have to do that. Everybody can get something individual.
It's easy.
Everybody gets something that
I
they
don't. It
want.
didn't need to be laborious for me. I just want you to work hard.
There are two things to work hard. One, you work hard for the money that you're going to spend for the food. You work hard making the food from, or picking out in Guaranteed Foods, whatever it might be. Or you work hard in asking for trade from some of the sales staff and what you guys can pay for through gift cards. There's work involved in this. That's part of it when you lose. But never again will there be a bonus question. I'll say that. And if there is, why would I think there was going to be a long-term? I was just feeling froggy. Yes, let's have fun. Yes, Vinny Pasquantino is going to get a long-term deal.
Look, if Vinny and Bubic don't get hurt, there's a chance Beards sweeps the board and a chance that Mick's buying lunch.
There's a chance that Beards ends up with an over 4 GPA. Well, I thought 4 was the best. Well, there's college courses, but there were 10 categories. How did he get 11?
Does Beards know? Does Beards know he could have made $1.5 million on the Royals this season? Had he bet on them? Had he done bets beyond the ZOUs?
Beards, you wouldn't have to work anymore if you just simply didn't play this game. Turns out, just go. I don't know. Well, it wasn't all negative though, because
he just nailed it.
He went over on Bobby Witt. Of course, that's it. Under was everything else. Under Greinke wins, over Lyles ERA, over Singer ERA, under on
it's
the
lesson here.
Under
Bet
on the
on
saves,
Bobby Witt, and
under
that's
on
the only Royal.
Under on the wins, over on Witt, under on Salvi, under Pasquantino, under Melendez.
Don't trust any other Royal other than Bobby Witt.
The other one wasn't even an over-under. I bet if we asked over-under, Bubic starts at 15.5, he'd have taken the under.
He really would have.
Even though it was like, who gets the most starts this year? Bubic, I don't know. I'll just throw a dart. Who cares? It's not an over-under.
Who cares? I'm going to win by 3. I can just...
I'm not good at these things. And clearly, I guess it also makes sense that his bonus question was the long-term deal. Yes, Bobby Witt, because he also went over with Bobby Witt. Yeah, Bobby Witt's going to have such an amazing season, they're going to sign him long-term. All right, so there you go.
That's so good.
5 out of a possible 11.
Have you ever not lost on Royals ZOUs? I feel like you're always the most positive, which would lead you to losing
always
every single
the
time.
most stupid, is that what you're saying?
Stupidest, I believe, is the superlative form of that word.
Stupid is as stupid does. That's what I heard in a movie once.
Do you have,
let me go and look at Royals.
you actually kept track of all the ZOUs over the years?
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
Wait, really?
Seriously?
Royals in 2022. Let's see. Beards and Mick tied for last year. Me and Corey and I had 7. You guys had 6. It was close, 7-6. So I did not lose last. That was a real good race, that one. And in 2021, because this is a big deal, the final score was, drum roll. Oh, Jesus, that's awful.
You probably got killed that season because they had a nice 2020 year with 60 games. Right?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Corey got 8. Mick and Shane had 7. I had 3. Out of 10. 3.
Yeah, they had that nice 60-game little small sample size.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I went over on everything. Like, I'm looking at it. It's like literally over.
Do you have the examples of what they are?
Yeah. Danny Duffy wins. We put it 9. I went over. He got 4. Brady Singer ERA, we put it 3.75. I went over. Oh, he got 4.9. That's one I got. Jacob Junis ERA was set at 4. He had 5.2. I went over.
And those guys played for this team that recently?
Yeah. Daniel Lynch game started. We set it 5.5. I went over. He got to 15.
Oh, did?
Josh Stallmont saves. We set it 20. I went over. He got 5. Adalberto Mondesi OPS. We set it 780. His final was 723. I went over. Everybody else went under. Soler home runs set at 33.5. He got 27. I went over. Witt hits. We set at 199. He got 184. I went over. Witt Jr. games played. I said at 75. He played. We said at 75. He played 0. I went over.
That might be the funniest one.
Don't worry. Shane went over too.
That's good.
Corey and Mick went under.
And we knew at that time he was not going to make the opening day roster.
Yeah,
but you're
and we even put it's written here. July 8th is cutoff. July 9th, he can only get to 74 games if he were to play every day. So we even said, hey, so that means he has to
Gotta
be up by July 8th
and then play every
playing
game.
every day. Yeah, he'll be up by July
Of
8th. Why wouldn't he?
course.
Look at this, Bobby Witt. This team is going to be in contention. Are you kidding me? Look at all these overs I got. This team's going to be in contention, baby. All right, so there you go. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the show next with, we'll look at the 2018 ZOUs. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Are you going to admit it, Jason?
No chance. No.
My dad says,
nope.
He'll pay for your lunch, our lunch, that if you admit on radio that Babe Ruth could start for the Royals. That really stings him that you think the only way you can get into a Major League game is buying a ticket these days.
Yeah, people don't like my take that if Babe Ruth were alive today and playing, that he would go to Major League Baseball games by attending them, by buying a ticket to be in the stadium. But, whatever.
Matt Kuchera would let him hit over Zach Greinke. We know that much.
He'd be 150 years old, too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he would have to drag his bones there, and I don't think he would play, even for the lifeless Royals.
You don't think he would play for the Royals? He couldn't start for the Royals?
I mean, who are you taking out of that lineup? Are you kidding
I can
me?
only think of 7 guys.
You kidding me?
The Royals cared about 4 things this year. Can Bobby Witt play shortstop? Can Kyle Isbell play center field? Is the pitching any good? And could Babe Ruth play on this team?
He could earn a spot in the bullpen. Taylor Clark, bye-bye. Hernandez, bye-bye.
That's true.
Ooh,
okay.
This is a good question.
He could earn a spot in the bullpen. He can't hit it. He can't hit, but in the bullpen.
Let me see.
Come on, say it. He'll buy.
No, I'm okay.
Well, I don't care. Yeah, you're fine.
You think I would sell out like that? Are you
yes,
kidding me?
Half the stuff you stay on the radio isn't true.
I
You
believe
don't
it
believe
100% in my heart. And if there's more information there and I can gather more, then I certainly could.
Wait, that whole
change my opinion.
LeBron thing, you believe, and it's not like a shtick?
No,
Wow.
I definitely believe that. Yes, because that is true. It is true.
I'm seeing something here that was like.
Because what we know
maybe
is
Babe
that
Ruth was only 95. That feels way too high.
is that people, as we got
Do that fast?
I don't think that.
as years have gone on, humans do not get bigger, faster, stronger. We know that about it, and teams don't get better and all that stuff. It doesn't happen. I just love the argument, that like, it was all Jordan. It was all Jordan. It was all Jordan. It was all Jordan. And it's like, well, I think that Warriors team with Durant would sweep those Bulls. Are you kidding me? You know how good that Bulls team was? That Bulls team was amazing. It had this guy, that. But I thought Jordan was the one. Well, yeah, he did. It was all Jordan. But, yeah, that Warriors team with Durant and Steph and Clay would win in 4.
I'll just take your word
Against
for it that
any
somebody
Bulls
actually
team.
made that argument
They
and
did.
you didn't come up with it
No,
in
they
your
did.
straw man
Somebody-
head.
somebody-
Here's the deal,
somebody
though.
made the argument.
In
I'm like,
40 years, though.
It was all Jordan, but then yet that team was so
I'm checking back
that
in 40
Warriors
years
team.
and seeing who you say is the best basketball player of all time.
Well, it'll depend. Have we seen somebody like that?
I mean,
because
they'll still be getting bigger, faster, and stronger, though, right?
they will, but it doesn't mean they'll necessarily be better. What LeBron has done is
so you're
gone
kind of
bigger.
hedging that. So you're going to say
Yeah.
LeBron when you're in your 70s, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
If somebody comes along and,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's Luther Burden. Who knows? I'm not going to stop him from playing basketball.
Basketball? Okay.
The best. The best
How do you know he can't be
versions-
the greatest basketball player of all time?
I don't, but I have a bet on it. It's with a parlay that
The parlay is also Brady Cook is not
that Kyle Busch can't start for the Chiefs. So
Brady Cook is not going to play second base for the Royals. I don't think Luther Burden's going to be able to be a
I'm
great
getting
NBA player.
horrible odds on it. In fact, when I win, I actually have to pay money to him, but I think I'm going to win.
Still feel pretty good about it. What was that, Josh?
Oh, I don't. That's just the best version of being an old man about your favorite old man baseball take is like Mad Dog will do it for players he didn't see
I was watching
play
him this
either.
morning, and he brought up like in the 1950s.
There's always always Otto Graham. It's like you can feel free to bring Otto Graham into whatever conversation, but it's. He should be doing that for Dan Marino right now when he was covering and watching the sport. But it's always like, no, I gotta get somebody from 1920 that I can compare Tom Brady to, so I can have a new take. That right there is special.
What sport could the athletes from say 1940 compete the closest with the athletes from 2022? Would it be baseball?
It's almost got to
It
be
ain't
baseball.
gonna be. It's not
right?
football.
Baseball, yeah.
It ain't gonna be basketball.
Yeah, it probably would be baseball.
I wonder about soccer.
Soccer?
I think soccer would probably
Maybe.
also.
It's a
Ping
big
pong?
on like
Ping pong, probably.
Sure,
Bowling?
I considered that.
Bowling?
So seriously, you guys ever see like those side by sides of this is the gold medal gymnastics routine in 1920 versus here's this year's gold medalist?
Well, different.
It's
Gymnast
it's
is
legitimately
unbelievable.
hilarious.
Yeah,
it's like this guy won gold medal. What did he do? Well, he lifted himself up on a bar. Like he won gold. Nobody else could do that at the time. It was great. And then he spun and then he jumped off and he didn't break a leg. So he actually got gold. And now it's like, well, this person flipped up to the stands and then jumped and then slid down the dome all the way to the ground and then rolled, did a tumble, did 17 flips.
I'm showing you, Mick, just some 1950s.
so
like, oh, hey, whoa, she did like a little cartwheel on the balance beam. That's crazy. And like, oh, Simone Biles just defied physics.
Simone Biles is doing like action movie stunts
Yes.
on top of the beam. So this one from the 60s, they're not even taking a foot off. They're always maintaining some sort of contact with the beam.
Very equitable.
similar, yeah.
I think so. Probably better, actually.
Nobody was listening to it back then, and they're still not.
Yeah, they are. Well,
My
not at
dad
120.
is.
There was an EAS test. Your dad. So, got that going for us.
You have a few seconds here to admit and to get free lunch.
Well, I'll just go out here to the...
I would say anything on the radio for something free. Try me.
I'm really afraid to promise you.
Because you'd have to say it first.
I'd have to lead you
on
there.
the radio, yeah.
And I've done a lot of sort of playing chicken with you on the radio before, and usually that bird gets hit.
Yeah.
Because he's
Every
not going to
time.
back down.
I won't back down. No.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Let's try this one. All right. Here we go. I just say